Chapter 901, That Look, 1. Were you going to kill yourself as penance? Jun Li Nguyen's voice rang in her ears. Cough, cough. Feng Wu choked on her own spit. She looked up and threw a dirty look at Jun Li Nguyen. What did you just say? Nothing. You said something. Feng Wu glared at that stunning face. You said I was trying to kill myself as penance. Why on earth would I do that? Jun Li Nguyen raised his chin proudly. You know perfectly well what you did. Feng Wu was offended. Are you referring to what happened just then? Jun Li Nguyen didn't grant her an answer. Feng Wu went on, You were unconscious and not breathing. I was only performing artificial respiration on you. Jun Li Nguyen looked over his shoulder and darted a knowing look at Feng Wu. What's with that look on your face? You don't believe me? Feng Wu glared at him. Jun Li Nguyen turned around. Go on. Try harder. Feng Wu exploded. I'm not pretending. It's true. I was only trying to save you. Why won't you believe me? What else did you think I was doing? Jun Li Nguyen grunted. It's not like you've never done it before. Why bother covering it up? I've never done it. Feng Wu stopped abruptly. She smacked her forehead in frustration. She lost that bet to Xian Yi the other day, and as a result, she had to sneak into Jun Li Nguyen's cabin in the middle of the night to confess her love to him, as well as... Feng Wu buried her face in her hands and was utterly frustrated. She would never be able to explain herself. Looking up, she stared at Jun Li Nguyen with bright eyes. Your Royal Highness, would you believe me if I told you that everything is just a coincidence? Jun Li Nguyen narrowed his eyes. I didn't know that coincidences happen that often. They do. Are you an idiot or do you take me for one? Feng Wu said, but... Is it that hard for you to admit your feelings for me? Feng Wu scratched her head in frustration. But I don't have any feelings for you. What am I supposed to admit? The smile disappeared and Jun Li Nguyen's face turned livid. Feng Wu then noticed something on Jun Li Nguyen's chest. You're hurt. She was shocked when she saw blood seeping through the clothes covering his chest, and rushed over to put pressure on it. Oh God! Feng Wu cried out when she examined the wound. She scolded Jun Li Nguyen. It's centimeters away from your heart. Your heart could have been punctured. Did you not know you have a deep cut on your chest? Why didn't you tell me? Jun Li Nguyen glared at Feng Wu. Go away. Don't touch me. If she didn't have any feelings for him, she should stay out of his way. Feng Wu felt like screaming. She hated it when people didn't take care of their own bodies. She glared back at him. Go away. Who will treat your wound if I leave now? This isn't the time for you to throw a tantrum. Stop behaving like a spoiled child. I won't buy it. Without me, you'll die here. Shut up if you still want to live. Feng Wu was as fierce as a tigress. She kept throwing dirty looks at him as she quickly wrapped up his wound. And she was able to keep the crown prince under control. The formidable teenager could only stare at her aggrievedly. Chapter 902, Does he know her secret? This girl had just yelled at him. How dare she? However, despite her reproach, Jun Li Nguyen didn't feel offended at all. Instead, he even basked in her attitude, for it gave him the feeling that she cared for him. That was so strange. The crown prince got rid of that idea immediately and turned his attention back to Feng Wu, who was busy treating his wound. Only, this felt so familiar, as if the same thing had happened before. The girl's smell, the look in her eyes, and her frown. That's too much. Jun Li Nguyen sounded displeased when he saw what Feng Wu was doing. Did she have too many gauze bandages or what? How many more layers did she want to wrap around him? Feng Wu threw a dirty look at him. Do you have any idea how badly you're injured? The beast's claws were so close to your heart. 1 centimeter more and you would already be dead. She went on, and that's not the only injury you have. There are cuts all over your abdomen. They'll get worse if I don't wrap them up. Feel free to ignore your own health, but I won't. You care about my health? Jun Linyuan asked in a mesmerizing and husky voice. Feng Wu glanced at him. A doctor cares about all her patients. Jun Linyuan grunted, but didn't say anything. All of a sudden, he blurted out, there's this person I really dislike. Who's that? Feng Wu asked without looking up. She was finishing up with the bandages. Jun Linyuan's stare was intense. Feng Wu paused a little, but before she could say anything, Jun Linyuan went on, stressing each word and keeping his gaze on her the entire time. She's this girl I met in Frozen Forest. Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. A girl he met in Frozen Forest. Wasn't that Feng Wu herself? Her heart was pounding. She must be very pretty, then. Feng Wu swore her voice was trembling. No, she wasn't. Right. Can we please change the subject, Your Royal Highness? Aren't you supposed to be a man of few words? What's with all the small talk now? She's a thief. Jun Linyuan snorted and emphasized in a childish manner, an annoying thief. Feng Wu said, I see. She was very bold, to offend you like that. Jun Linyuan actually nodded. Bao Er would be cured by now if that girl hadn't stolen my immortal spiritual fruit. She's still bedridden now, with her life hanging in the balance. So. When I catch her, I'll chop her into pieces. Jun Linyuan smirked. Feng Wu almost jolted. Seriously? She thought that Jun Linyuan had forgotten about it by now. As it turned out, he had been holding a grudge this whole time and was eager to take revenge. Feng Wu asked tentatively, you still haven't caught her, then? Almost there. Staring at Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan's lips curled into a smile. What was that supposed to mean? Did he have a lead, or had he found out who she was? Feng Wu didn't dare to look into Jun Linyuan's eyes. However, she thought she would give herself away if she avoided eye contact. So, she forced herself to meet Jun Linyuan's gaze with wide-open eyes. Why did you stop? Jun Linyuan reminded her. Right, yes, there's enough gauze already, I'm going to wrap it up. At Jun Linyuan's reminder, Feng Wu tied another type of knot instead of a bow. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu's nimble fingers. Chapter 903, Who's Bao Er? Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu's nimble fingers. And he smiled a little. Feng Wu almost broke under the pressure. Her hands were shaking so badly that she had difficulty tying the knot. Why are you shaking? The Crown Prince's husky voice sounded mesmerizing. Feng Wu stared at her fingers, which were trembling from her guilty conscience. She couldn't control it. She said the first thing that came to her mind. Because it's freezing. Look at all the snow around us. And the wind. Aren't you cold? What she really thought was. If Jun Linyuan learned what really happened, she would be dead before she knew it. Just then, a heavy cape fell on Feng Wu's lap. Put it on, then. But you're still injured. Feng Wu wanted to give the cape back, but the Crown Prince cast her a stern glance. Face dark, he narrowed his eyes. Say no again. I dare you. Feng Wu stole a diffident glance at Jun Linyuan. What would happen if he knew who she was? By the way, who's Bao Er? Feng Wu asked curiously. She had heard that name from several different people already, but after all these months in the imperial capital, she still hadn't met her. I'll introduce you to her next time, Jun Linyuan said mildly. All right. As soon as Feng Wu replied, she felt that something was off. What was it? Jun Linyuan then said, I've lost that immortal spiritual fruit. I won't let the same thing happen to the Heart of Frost essence this time. Feng Wu's eyes widened and she stared at Jun Linyuan. What do you mean? The Heart of Frost essence will help Bao Er with her illness. Feng Wu started shaking again. She had asked for Yu Minji's help to have the physical tryout take place in Proud Snowfield, just for that Heart of Frost essence. And Jun Linyuan was going to compete with her for it once more? Why are you shaking again? Jun Linyuan noticed Feng Wu's pale face and how badly she was trembling. Wrapped in the big, heavy cape, the girl looked tiny in contrast. Jun Linyuan found his heart going out to her. But he eliminated that idea from his head almost immediately. He felt pity for the fierce Feng Wu. His head had to be muddled from fighting that beast. Feng Wu, on the other hand, began to formulate a strategy. From now on, she had to stay as far away from Jun Linyuan as possible. The last thing she wanted was for him to realize that she was the ugly girl. After all, he was very smart and she could never be careful enough. Just then, Boss Jun, Boss Jun. They heard a familiar voice in the distance. Feng Wu looked up and spotted Feng Sun. She had been alone with Jun Linyuan in the middle of nowhere, which made her really fidgety. Feng Wu had been at a loss over what to do, when Feng Sun showed up. What a blessing! Feng Wu was over the moon. Jumping to her feet, she waved her hands in excitement and hopped around. I'm here. Feng Sun, we're here. Jun Linyuan darted a glance at Feng Wu, looking somewhat displeased. Was she that happy to see Feng Sun? Was she so reluctant to be alone with him? Feng Sun ran at lightning speed. He started off 2 mountains away, but seemed to reach them in no time. Sister. Brother. They held hands and jumped around. Jun Linyuan glared at them with a grim look on his face. Since when were the two of them that close? Behave yourselves. Jun Linyuan warned them in a cold voice. Feng Wu let go of Feng Sun's hands right away. She believed that since Jun Linyuan considered Feng Sun his best friend, he had to be displeased to see Feng Sun being so friendly with her. Humph. Chapter 904, Not Good. At that thought, Feng Wu threw a dirty look at Jun Linyuan. The guy was such an overprotective friend. When would she get to join the club? Feng Sun let go of Feng Wu, turned in Jun Linyuan's direction, and saw the gauze wrapped around him. Ah! Feng Sun shrieked and blanched in astonishment. Feng Wu jumped up in surprise. Rushing over to Jun Linyuan, Feng Sun stared at his chest. Boss Jun, are you hurt? Jun Linyuan grunted. Oh God, Boss Jun, you're injured. How did that happen? Feng Wu was bemused. Why can't it happen? She had seen those scars on Jun Linyuan. One look and she knew that they had been inflicted when he was little. Feng Sun glanced at Feng Wu. You don't understand. Boss Jun has never lost a fight, not even to magical beasts. He crushes all his opponents. It's impossible to injure him. Feng Wu rolled her eyes. All human beings can get hurt. But Boss Jun is. Jun Linyuan silenced Feng Sun with a wave of his hand. As soon as Jun Linyuan rose to his feet, Feng Wu threw the cape over his shoulders. Luckily, she had reacted quickly enough earlier. She had taken off the cape before Feng Sun reached them. Otherwise, she could guarantee that Feng Sun would overthink it. Jun Linyuan kept his brooding gaze on Feng Wu the entire time, which gave her the creeps. She was even more on edge. Not only hasn't Boss Jun ever gotten injured, he's never failed any assignment either. Feng Sun said proudly. However, he decided to tell the truth after some thought. Well, apart from that time when he was tricked by that ugly girl in Frozen Forest. Feng Wu. Clenching her fists, she shot an accusing glance at Feng Sun. My dear brother, please let it drop and talk about something else. To her surprise, Jun Linyuan interjected. He asked, how's the investigation going? Feng Sun replied, Boss Jun, we're getting close. Intel says that Feng Xiaowu has arrived at the imperial capital already. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Feng Sun went on, there's more. I've learned that Feng Xiaowu is actually a cultivator, although she pretended she had no such ability in front of us. Feng Sun clenched his fists. That little liar. I was so kind to her. I trusted her and took her under my wing. That was what she did to repay me. And she even set me up. Overwhelmed by her guilty conscience, Feng Wu quietly backed away from Feng Sun. You really have a lead on her? Flustered, Feng Wu asked gingerly. Yes. She was often spotted in male clothing in neighboring northern border cities such as the cities of Luo, Lian, and Hu. Following that, we've been able to find out a lot about her. Feng Sun grinned. Feng Wu almost forgot to breathe. He was right. She had visited those cities in her disguise as a doctor. If Jun Linyuan followed that lead, it would only be a matter of time before he found out who she really was. Xiao Wu, why are you trembling? Seeing Feng Wu shake from head to toe, Feng Sun said grumpily, you're little Feng Wu and she's Feng Xiaowu. Your names are a bit similar, but she's a totally different person. Why do you look so worried? Feng Wu wanted to smack Feng Sun on the head. Was he trying to make Jun Linyuan connect the two names together? Stop reminding him already. However, Jun Linyuan pondered over those words. Little Feng Wu. Feng Xiaowu. Chapter 905, I Know Her Secret, 1. Feng Wu jumped to her feet. Stop calling me little Feng Wu. I'm just Feng Wu. She was overwhelmed with regret. Why had she called herself Feng Xiaowu back then? She should have made up another name. Wait, she used that same name when she treated patients in other cities as well. She would only have brought more trouble on herself if those people didn't know her as Feng Xiaowu. Scratching her head, Feng Wu was a little on edge. She had an inkling that they would figure it out sooner or later. How about turning herself in, instead of waiting to be discovered? No. Judging by Jun Linyuan's attitude, Bao meant the world to him. On the other hand, Feng Wu herself was worthless in comparison. Feng Wu believed that Jun Linyuan would snap her neck as soon as he learned the truth. For the sake of her own life, Feng Wu couldn't expose herself now. She tried to change the subject and turned to Feng Sun. Hey, why are you alone? Where are the others? We split up to look for you, but I got lucky. It didn't take me long to find you, ha ha ha. Feng Sun then examined Feng Wu and looked pained. He rubbed Feng Wu's head. We thought we lost you when we realized that you had been snatched by the frosty night beast. I'm so glad that you're okay. Kiddo, I was so scared. Feng Sun pulled Feng Wu into his arms and patted her little head. Narrowing his eyes, Jun Linyuan yanked Feng Wu back and put her on the other side. That almost threw Feng Wu off balance. Xiao Wu. Are you going to stay here forever? After throwing a dirty look at Feng Sun, the crown prince shot a warning glance at Feng Wu. Feng Wu rubbed her nose. Well, it seemed that Feng Sun was much more important to Jun Linyuan. Back at the campsite, almost everyone welcomed Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan back. Mu Yaoyao and her people were the only exceptions. They were noticeably disappointed when they saw Feng Wu. Why is she still alive? I thought that beast would kill her for sure. It's like what they say, annoying people are the hardest to kill. Feng Wu is so repulsive, she'll probably live forever. I bet His Royal Highness saved her, or she would never have made it back alive. Feng Wu ignored Mu Yaoyao and her little group. She went to find Yu Minji as soon as she got back. The two of them met in a quiet corner. Seeing how flustered and nervous Feng Wu was, Yu Minji was concerned. What's wrong? Something bothering you? Yu Minji's imagination ran wild again. It's Jun Linyuan, isn't it? I'll go talk to him. It's not that. Feng Wu stopped him. What is it, then? Feng Wu gritted her teeth. I guess you're partially right. What do you mean? Feng Wu said, he's onto me. Onto you what? Frozen forest. Yu Minji was the only person Feng Wu could talk to on the subject. She hadn't admitted it when Yu Minji questioned her before, but this was as good as tacit confirmation. Yu Minji understood as soon as Feng Wu said those two words. He smacked his hand down on a pile of snow. It really was you. You're Feng Xiaowu. You. Feng Wu covered his mouth immediately. Jun Linyuan and Feng Sun were looking everywhere for Feng Xiaowu. What if they heard him? Luckily, it was very similar to her real name, and no one was close enough to hear them. Chapter 906, I Know Her Secret, 2. Yu Minji gestured that he would keep his voice down, and only then did Feng Wu let go of him. It was you. It really was you. Yu Minji pointed at Feng Wu. You naughty girl. You fooled me for so long. Feng Wu grinned. Teehee. Yu Minji said, now, tell me, was that laxative powder really one of your concoctions? He had actually run an investigation, and his capable staff had gotten to the bottom of it. Feng Wu had created the recipe for that laxative powder when she was just a little girl. Feng Wu glanced at Yu Minji, then looked into the distance. Do you mean, excruciating soul-destroying bone-crushing mind-poisoning pill of 10,000 ants? Yu Minji. Feng Wu beamed at him. Embarrassed, Yu Minji glared at Feng Wu. You'll never let that drop, will you? I didn't say that. Feng Wu. What now? How can you talk to me like nothing happened after what you did to me? I'm so. Yu Minji was still lashing out at Feng Wu about his predicament when someone interrupted them. What did Feng Wu do to you? Was that Feng Sun? Feng Wu looked over her shoulder and almost fainted. Jun Linyuan and Xian Yi were also here. And the crown prince's face was as dark as a stormy night. As if Feng Wu didn't have enough on her plate, Yu Minji decided to sling an arm over Feng Wu's shoulders as he threw a taunting look at Jun Linyuan. He then said to Feng Sun, young Lord Feng, I think Feng Wu and I can work it out ourselves. Feng Sun snapped. Shoving Yu Minji off Feng Wu's shoulders, Feng Sun pulled his sister behind him. He then glared at Yu Minji. I'm warning you. She's my sister. She's off limits. Yu Minji grinned. Brother-in-law, be civil. Feng Sun flared up. Who the hell is your brother-in-law? I'm going to kill you. Yu Minji shrugged. I'm the first person your sister met after she got back. Need I say more? Feng Sun turned to glare at Feng Wu. Little Feng Wu, you. Yu Minji dragged Feng Wu back to his side and whispered something in her ear. Feng Wu wanted to smack the guy on the head. The abominable Yu Minji was blackmailing her. Do as he said or he would tell everyone her secret. Feng Wu seethed with anger. She had considered Yu Minji a good friend and had come to him as soon as she got back. After pouring her heart out and asking him for his opinion, this was what she got in return. Feng Wu was furious. However, she was facing a dilemma. She could choose to collaborate with Yu Minji and make people think that there was something going on between the two of them. Or, she could ignore Yu Minji, who would then reveal her secret. When that happened, Feng Sun probably would be the first one to jump at her. Feng Wu was so conflicted. However, the next second, Jun Linyuan made his move. No one saw exactly what he did, but the next thing they knew, Feng Wu was in his arms. Yu Minji narrowed his eyes. He was already a legend among people of his age, but after all his hard training, he was still inferior to Jun Linyuan. The frustration ruined his mood. Chapter 907, I Know Her Secret, 3. Jun Linyuan then began to carry Feng Wu away. Do you think you can get between me and Xiao Wu so easily? Yu Minji shouted from behind. I know her secret. Exasperated, Yu Minji said those words. What secret? Suspicion was roused, and everyone shot Feng Wu strange looks. Feng Wu wanted to throttle Yuminji. He had said the worst thing. Struggling free, Feng Wu jumped off Jun Linyuan and charged at Yuminji. She glared at him. Fine, you know my secret. Come, share it with everybody. Yuminji was immediately intimidated. He stumbled back when he saw the fury in Feng Wu's eyes. Speak now. Don't hold back. What secret? Tell me. I'm listening. Feng Wu began to roll up her sleeves. This guy had practically handed Jun Linyuan the answer. How dare he try to provoke her? He was so dead. Yuminji backed off like a deflated balloon. He gave Feng Wu a pleading look. I was bluffing, that's all. People bluff, don't they? Feng Wu spoke to Feng Sun over her shoulder as she rolled up her sleeves. I'm sorry, but we need to sort something out. Please give us some privacy. She was asking them to leave. Feng Sun darted a sympathetic glance at Yuminji. That guy had just dug his own grave. Little Feng Wu was going to teach him a lesson now. Too bad they couldn't stay behind to witness it. Feng Wu sneered at Yuminji after the others left. Yuminji stepped back. Xiao Wu, my dear Xiao Wu, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're sorry for what? I shouldn't have said those things. And? I shouldn't have taunted Jun Linyuan. And? I shouldn't have tried to blackmail you. And? That's all. Crack. Feng Wu's whip cracked the ground hard, scattering snow everywhere. Yuminji lowered his head. I shouldn't have made them think that there was something between us. Feng Wu smirked. So, you do know what you did. Yuminji said, but, you're going to marry me anyway. So what if I make them think that way? Crack. Feng Wu's whip whooshed down again. Fine, fine. Maybe you're going to. Feng Wu closed in on Yuminji as the guy fell back. Her gaze was cold. Yuminji, patience has never been a virtue of mine, and I'm only going to say this once. The look on Feng Wu's face was solemn and serious. Do that again, and you'll never be my friend. I mean it. Tossing the whip to the side, Feng Wu stormed off. Yuminji bit his lip as he watched Feng Wu leave. There was a pensive look in his eyes. A few steps away, Feng Sun and Xian Yi, who had been hiding behind a pile of snow, exchanged knowing looks. Both sighed in relief. Feng Sun was relieved because Feng Wu was his only baby sister. He would never let some lousy guy win her heart. Although, by regular standards, Yuminji was an excellent candidate. Xian Yi, on the other hand, was relieved because if Feng Wu and Yuminji really were in love as the latter had suggested, there would be blood tonight. Xian Yi didn't want to see that happen. They then went to visit Jun Linyuan in his wooden cabin. Chapter 908, I don't want to see him. Right now, the crown prince was sulking in his cabin. Feng Sun and Xian Yi walked in at that moment. Feng Sun sat down before Xian Yi could speak and said in a cheerful voice, little Feng Wu is killing that Yuminji now. It's so hilarious. The crown prince seemed to light up a little at those words, and he turned to look at Feng Sun. Xian Yi noticed the change in Jun Linyuan's attitude and he chimed in immediately, that's so true. Yuminji really had it coming. You don't say. How dare he make up that stuff about little Feng Wu? I wanted to choke him myself. Exactly. Feng Sun said indignantly, Xiao Wu would never have feelings for him. TCH. Xian Yi nodded. I agree. Feng Sun went on, no man is good enough for Xiao Wu. Anyway, they all have to go through me before they can court her. With Xian Yi's subtle guidance, Feng Sun said the right thing without knowing it. Gradually, Jun Linyuan's mood lifted. By the way, Boss Jun, how often do we need to change your bandages? After much babbling, Feng Sun and Xian Yi finally remembered Jun Linyuan's injury. Once a day, said Jun Linyuan indifferently. It needs changing, then. Feng Sun rose to his feet in a hurry. But I don't have any medication with me. Boss Jun, who treated you before? Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Sun. Xian Yi gave Feng Sun a, you idiot, look. Feng Sun smacked his own forehead. It was little Feng Wu, wasn't it? Speaking of which, the girl is an excellent doctor. You two were alone out there. Who else could it have been? I'm so dumb. Jun Linyuan went on staring at Feng Sun. Feng Sun took the hint right away. I'll go fetch her now. He left right after that. Xian Yi stayed behind. He frowned when he saw the thick layers of gauze around Jun Linyuan's chest. Is it serious? Jun Linyuan snorted. Don't overreact. If he thought they were overreacting, why did he give Feng Sun permission to go get Feng Wu? Just admit it. You want to see her. Xian Yi vented his sarcasm inwardly. Feng Sun went to get little Feng Wu as told. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was giving the brat Yuminji a warning by pulling his ear. Think twice before you try to make fun of me next time. If I catch you talking about me like that again, we'll stop being friends for good. That hurts, sob. Alright, Yuminji cried out. He meant it. Feng Wu had her bottom line, and he had just crossed it. Feng Wu was still mad when she got back to her tent. That was such a shitty thing for Yuminji to do. However, she couldn't put her finger on exactly what she was mad at. Was it because of Yuminji's attitude or the fact that he had tried to make up things about her in front of Jun Linyuan? She just couldn't tell. Feng Wu was still trying to figure it out when knock. There was a knock at the door. Feng Sun walked in. He grabbed Feng Wu by her arm as soon as he saw her. Come with me. Quickly. Where to? After everything that had happened, Feng Wu was on high alert. To see Boss Jun, of course. No, thanks. That was Feng Wu's first reaction. Jun Linyuan was the last person she wanted to see at the moment. She couldn't bear the taunting look in his eyes. Feng Sun was bewildered. You're not going. Then who's going to change Boss Jun's bandages? His wound has been treated already. Anyone can change his bandages now. Feng Wu handed Feng Sun a first aid kit. You do it. Chapter 909, Your Royal Highness, it's me. Are you really not going? Feng Sun was bewildered. Wasn't Feng Wu always following Boss Jun around? Why wouldn't she go to him now? Feng Wu rolled her eyes. Forget it. Feng Sun asked curiously, but why? Feng Wu sighed. What do you think? People are already saying that I won't leave His Royal Highness alone. I would only be confirming their speculation if I go to him now. You're my brother, for God's sake. Aren't you supposed to be watching my back? Rubbing his nose, Feng Sun eyed Feng Wu in suspicion. But since when do you care what other people think of you? It's so not like you. Feng Wu replied, whatever. I'm not going. He's pretty much recovered, anyway. All he needs is to have his bandages changed. Anyone can do it. There, it's your job now. After that, Feng Wu handed the medical kit to Feng Sun. Are you talking about changing His Royal Highness's bandages? An arrogant voice rang out behind them. Feng Wu turned around and saw that it was Mu Yaoyao. When did she get here? Mu Yaoyao didn't seem to realize that she wasn't welcome here. She went up to Feng Wu in a hurry and snatched the medical kit out of the latter's hands. She then glared at Feng Wu. You're such a heartless woman. Feng Wu stared at her in bewilderment. Mu Yaoyao threw a dirty look at Feng Wu. You were asked to change His Royal Highness's bandages. How can you say no to that? Feng Wu was speechless. Do we have to get down our knees to beg you, and you'll only say yes after refusing us repeatedly? You want to look so restrained, don't you? Mu Yao Yao snorted. Do you think things will go as you plan? Feng Wu was speechless. It's just changing bandages. Anyone can do it. TCH. Mu Yao Yao stormed off with the medical kit. Feng Wu and Feng Sun exchanged looks. Clearly, Mu Yao Yao didn't care what other people had to say about the matter. Feng Sun asked, can she do it? Feng Wu rubbed her nose and didn't say anything. She hadn't told Mu Yao Yao about the secret lock on the kit. She wouldn't be able to open it, anyway. Thump, thump, thump. Footsteps came from outside. She's here. Elated, Xian Yi went to answer the door. However, he was baffled when he saw the person outside. It wasn't Feng Wu, but Mu Yao Yao. Cousin, Mu Yao Yao gave Xian Yi her sweetest smile. Narrowing his eyes, Xian Yi blocked the door. He then stared at Mu Yao Yao. What are you doing here? Mu Yao Yao held up the medical kit. I'm here to change His Royal Highness's bandages. Xian Yi frowned. Why you? Since she was his cousin, Xian Yi thought he should caution her in advance. However, Mu Yao Yao shoved him to the side and rushed into the room. She would be able to see His Royal Highness's half-naked body, of course she wouldn't miss the chance. Hence, Mu Yao Yao pushed Xian Yi out of her way as soon as she saw that he was going to stop her. Mu. That was the only word Xian Yi had time to say before Mu Yao Yao reached Jun Linyuan. With a book in his hand, Jun Linyuan had posed himself just so in order to look nonchalant when Feng Wu arrived. Your Royal Highness, I'm here to change your bandages. Setting the kit on the table, Mu Yao Yao crouched down next to Jun Linyuan and gave him an affectionate smile. Instantly. Chapter 9-10, It all started with Feng Wu, didn't it? Expecting to see Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan had been assuming airs with a book in his hand. His face turned livid when he heard the voice. Looking up, he saw that it indeed wasn't Feng Wu. The look he gave Mu Yao Yao was murderous. It was such a frightening glare that Mu Yao Yao's stomach lurched. Her heart pounded so hard that her chest was about to burst open. Instinctively, Mu Yao Yao wanted to flee. However, this was such a rare chance that she might never get it again. At that thought, Mu Yao Yao fought back her fear and reached out to take the medical kit in her hands. Her voice trembled uncontrollably when she spoke again. Why, Your Royal Highness, Mu Yao Yao swallowed. I'm here to change your bandages. However, she couldn't open the kit no matter what. The kit belonged to Feng Wu, who was used to keeping a lot of secrets. She had designed a secret lock for the kit so that she was the only one who could open it. Despite the great pressure, Mu Yao Yao tried to open the box. However, she was so flustered that her fingers kept slipping. And it seemed impossible to get that box open. Sweat rolled down her forehead. Get out! Jun Linyuan's face was livid and his eyes spat fire. His voice rang out like a thunderclap over Mu Yao Yao's head. She was scared stiff and almost stopped breathing. Jun Linyuan reminded her of a cornered beast who would tear her to pieces in the next moment. He was so scary. Mu Yao Yao thought that she was going to have a heart attack. She almost fainted, and burst into tears. Without thinking, she turned around and ran. Thud, 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 she bumped into various things on her way out, and she tripped and fell. However, she only scrambled to her feet and kept running, as if she was being chased by a ferocious beast. Run, run, run. Outside, Feng Sun and Xian Yi exchanged looks. They knew Boss Jun didn't like Mu Yao Yao, but they didn't expect him to be so unfriendly. Patting his chest, Feng Sun whispered to Xian Yi, I'm so glad little Feng Wu didn't come. Otherwise, she would be the one who was scared off. Xian Yi shot a dirty look at Feng Sun and mumbled, this would never have happened if she were here. What was that? Feng Sun didn't hear it. Xian Yi was about to explain, when Jun Linyuan's angry voice came from inside. Get your asses in here. Exchanging looks, Xian Yi and Feng Sun entered the cabin with their heads lowered. Feng Sun walked in to find the medical kit on the floor. He rushed over to pick it up. That Mu Yao Yao is unbelievable. This isn't the right way to treat other people's belongings. What did she do to little Feng Wu's medical kit? Jun Linyuan's face darkened when he heard Feng Sun's words. Teehee. Seeing the look on Boss Jun's face, Feng Sun explained in a hurry, I was afraid that us guys wouldn't be careful enough with changing your bandages, and Mu Yao Yao just happened to volunteer. She took the medical kit before we could stop her, and we just let her have her way. But, we forgot that you don't like girls near you. Feng Sun smacked his own forehead. That was right. Boss Jun had always resisted having girls around him, and that used to be rule number 1. But when did they begin to forget that? Feng Sun searched his memory. It all started with little Feng Wu, didn't it? Chapter 9-11, Boss Jun is in love with Feng Wu. Feng Sun decided that he would change Boss Jun's bandages, for the guy didn't like to have girls around. However, when he wanted to open the medical kit, he realized in surprise that he couldn't. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Knock, 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 who is it? Feng Sun went to answer the door and saw that it was Feng Wu. Feng Sun panicked a little and tried to shove Feng Wu out of the cabin. Not now. You have to leave. Feng Wu was at a loss. Boss Jun is mad again and Mu Yao Yao ran away in tears. You can't be here. Feng Sun prompted Feng Wu. That explained it, thought Feng Wu. She had seen Mu Yao Yao running off in tears and looking ghastly pale. However, I forgot to tell you. There's a secret lock on the medical kit, and I'm the only one who can open it. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. Wait here. Feng Sun rushed back in, fetched the medical kit, and stuffed it into Feng Wu's hands. Open it here. There's no need for you to go in. However, before Feng Sun could say another word, he was pulled away. When he realized it, Xian Yi had pushed Feng Wu into the room with one hand and yanked Feng Sun out of the door. He then slammed the door behind them. Feng Sun was speechless. So was Feng Wu. Xian Yi, you. Feng Sun was furious when he realized what had happened. He grabbed Xian Yi by the collar. Have you lost your mind? Didn't you see what Mu Yao Yao went through? Shutting little Feng Wu in with Boss Jun will get her killed. Angrily shoving Xian Yi away, Feng Sun ran toward the door as he tried to get back in. However, Xian Yi dragged him away, walking as fast as he could. It just so happened that Xian Yi was a better cultivator than Feng Sun, and the latter wasn't able to break free. Xian Yi. Let go of me. What sort of friend are you? Feng Sun was furious. By then, Xian Yi had pulled him behind a pile of snow. Thump. He then pushed Feng Sun into the pile, kicking up snow everywhere. Feng Sun spat the snow out of his mouth as he shouted, You're going to get Xiao Wu killed. And you call yourself a friend? That's not something a friend should do. Glaring at Xian Yi, Feng Sun raised a fist. But Xian Yi spoke first. You just can't see it, can you? See what? Feng Sun's hand was still raised when he stared at Xian Yi in bewilderment. Boss Jun is in love with little Feng Wu. Can't you tell? Xian Yi asked in frustration. Feng Sun was dazed for a moment before he guffawed. He pointed at Xian Yi as he laughed. You're out of your mind. Boss Jun is in love with little Feng Wu. Ha 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 ha. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. As Feng Sun guffawed, Xian Yi stood there with a sword between his crossed arms and a solemn look on his face. Feng Sun stopped laughing. It wasn't a joke. Do I look like I'm joking? That's impossible. Feng Sun wouldn't believe it. Xian Yi smirked. Has Boss Jun ever been so close with a girl before he met little Feng Wu? Feng Sun said, of course not. But we stayed in Feng Wu's house when we were in northern border city. Feng Sun retorted, that was because it was Feng Yiran's house. Xian Yi smiled at Feng Sun. Feng Sun wouldn't give in. It couldn't have been because of little Feng Wu. Chapter 9:12. No. Xian Yi stared into his eyes. Then on our way back, Boss Jun permitted her to stay with us. Has he ever done that with any other girl? Feng Sun protested, that was because Feng Wu has a family to take care of, and she has no cultivation ability. Boss Jun pitted. Xian Yi crossed his arms. I see. So you're saying that Boss Jun would ignore his beliefs because he pitted some weaklings. That wasn't what Jun Linyuan would do. Feng Sun said, I remember now. Boss Jun didn't offer to take Xiao Wu with us on our way back. Xiao Wu wanted to join us herself. Remember that? Feng Sun got excited. Xiao Wu followed us herself. Yes, that was it. Plus, you saw it yourself in Wanping town. Little Feng Wu snuck into Boss Jun's room in the middle of the night. Xian Yi gave Feng Sun a half-smile. It could have been a misunderstanding, but let's just say that what you said really happened. What do you think would have happened if that girl hadn't been Feng Wu? Xian Yi grinned. It's not like we haven't seen before how Jun Linyuan treats girls. Gong Sun Qing is one of the latest examples, and she's still bedridden. And there's Mu Yao Yao. She's probably still crying now. The consequences of climbing into his bed would only be more severe. But was little Feng Wu injured? Feng Sun shook his head. Did she cry? Feng Sun shook his head after some thought. Xian Yi shrugged. There you go. Feng Sun shook his head. I don't buy it. How can Boss Jun be in love with little Feng Wu? That's impossible. Xian Yi sneered at him. You've been beaten up twice for nothing. Beaten up? Feng Sun immediately recalled the 2 duels Boss Jun had dragged him into. Xian Yi smiled. Why did Boss Jun want to challenge you? Think. Feng Sun might not be convinced by other things, but the beatings he had taken were simply too unreasonable and unforgettable. Feng Sun began to search his memory. The first one happened after the banquet at Yen Manor. Boss Jun and little Feng Wu were getting into the same carriage and Feng Sun had tried to stop little Feng Wu, fearing that she might get hurt. Then, Feng Sun was confused. But how does little Feng Wu have anything to do with the second time? Xian Yi rubbed his nose. Well, the second time was actually his doing, and Feng Sun was the scapegoat. He had wanted to keep it secret, but Feng Sun would never be able to figure it out himself. With no other choice, Xian Yi had to tell Feng Sun everything. What? Feng Sun almost jumped to his feet. You! How could you trick Boss Jun like that? Little Feng Wu could have been beaten up by Boss Jun. But was she? Xian Yi smiled. Feng Sun stopped abruptly. Little Feng Wu ran off that night, and did you see the look on Boss Jun's face the next morning? You asked him what happened and Boss Jun actually grinned. Xian Yi glanced at Feng Sun. Feng Sun was speechless. He didn't want to believe it. He really didn't. However, when Xian Yi laid out the evidence piece by piece, Feng Sun felt as if he had been struck by lightning. I don't believe it, I don't. Despite what he said, Feng Sun was already half convinced. Chapter 9:13, A Threat from His Royal Highness. Xian Yi cut to the chase. If you're still not convinced, let's talk about the facts. What facts? Feng Sun had a bitter taste in his mouth and he felt awful. If what Xian Yi said was true. Feng Sun was petrified when he recalled what he had done so far. He had been more of a hindrance than a help. Feng Sun looked embarrassed when he recalled telling Boss Jun that since little Feng Wu was his sister, she was as good as a half-sister to the crown prince. Glancing at Feng Sun, Xian Yi saw that the guy was still in shock, so he patted him on the shoulder. Feng Sun asked, "What?" Xian Yi said, "It's going to be a really easy test." Mu Yaoyao ran away in tears when she tried to change Boss Jun's bandages. "We'll see how he treats little Feng Wu. That'll answer our questions." Feng Sun nodded. That was a good idea. A voice kept telling Feng Sun in his head that Xian Yi was talking nonsense and that Boss Jun couldn't be in love with little Feng Wu. The two teenagers hid behind a pile of snow outside Jun Linyuan's cabin, and all four eyes were fixed on the closed door. Behind that closed door, the medical kit that had given Feng Sun and Mu Yaoyao a hard time popped open under Feng Wu's fingers with a click. The last thing Feng Wu wanted was to stay in a room alone with Jun Linyuan. That was because Feng Xiaowu of Northern Border City had come up in their conversation the last time they were alone. Jun Linyuan's eyes had been frighteningly bright, and for a split second, Feng Wu thought that he had found out the truth. That was why Feng Wu felt so uneasy around the guy now. Hence, setting the medical kit down on the table, Feng Wu said, "Feng Sun will change your bandages after he gets back. As for her, she would stay as far away from this guy as possible." However, she barely made it 3 steps when a cold voice rang out behind her. "Leave this room. I dare you." Feng Wu jumped at those words and stood still right away. That was a blatant threat. Biting her lip, Feng Wu wrinkled her nose. What should she do now? She didn't dare meet Jun Linyuan's eyes. It was as if he could see through everything. Feng Wu fidgeted. "Come over here." The crown prince grunted. Feng Wu wanted to flee, but was stopped by what Jun Linyuan said next. "I see that you don't want that broken star piece anymore." Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Spinning around, she glared at Jun Linyuan. "What do you want to do to my broken star piece? You made a promise. You're going to give it to me when I get into Imperial College as the top candidate. So, you do remember that?" Jun Linyuan snorted. There was a taunting look in his eyes. Feng Wu smacked her head. So much had happened lately that she had forgotten about Jun Linyuan's terms. What was more, not only had she made a bet with Jun Linyuan, but with Mu Yaoyao and Yi Yifei as well. If she didn't get the top spot, apart from losing the broken star piece, she would lose her head to Mu Yaoyao, too. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. "You don't have to worry about that, Your Royal Highness. I'll take care of it myself." Jun Linyuan smiled a little. Now that the Frosty Night Beast is out, all the other magical beasts have scattered. Feng Wu knew what that meant. The rankings of the candidates were pretty much fixed. That was because no other magical beasts would show up anymore, and it was coming to the end of the physical tryout. Chapter 9:14, I Don't Buy It. That Frosty Night Beast had become her only source of spiritual essence, but Feng Wu would be finished off in one blow if she tried to face it on her own. That was to say, if she still wanted to be first, Jun Linyuan was her only hope. Feng Wu looked even more frustrated after figuring that out. Jun Linyuan stared at her the whole time. His eyes were bright but brooding. He was doing everything above board. And that was why Feng Wu couldn't say no to the offer. Feng Wu was a smart girl who took note of the situation. Jun Linyuan believed that she wouldn't choose otherwise. Leaning against the headboard, Jun Linyuan smiled at Feng Wu with a confident look in his eyes. Teehee. Feng Wu forced herself to beam at him. To give in or not, that was the question. And Feng Wu gave in without hesitation. She had done it too many times to give a damn anyway. Feng Wu asked, Your Royal Highness, how are you feeling? Shall I change your bandages for you? Jun Linyuan snorted. To what do I owe this pleasure? Feng Wu went up to him in a hurry and tugged his sleeve. Your Royal Highness, you flatter me. It would be my honor to change your bandages. I'm at your service. Feng Wu batted her eyelashes and winked. It could take anyone's breath away. However, she was dealing with Jun Linyuan. Although, even the worldly crown prince almost came under her spell. He looked away uneasily. Feng Wu said, "Please allow me to undress you." "That's done. I'm going to change your bandages now." "Sorry, I touched your wound. Does it hurt? Shall I blow on it?" Jun Linyuan was speechless. He had dealt with Feng Wu too many times to fall for her tricks. The girl was all about an equivalent exchange. She would fold at the slightest threat if she thought it worthwhile. She finished wrapping Jun Linyuan up again in no time. After putting everything away, Feng Wu wanted to leave. But the crown prince would never cut her loose that easily. Moreover, Feng Wu wasn't Jun Linyuan's match when it came to playing tricks. Hence, she had to stay behind and serve him as told. Outside. Xian Yi glanced at Feng Sun. It's been an hour. Mu Yao Yao had been in the cabin for less than a minute before the crown prince yelled at her and she fled the scene in tears. But Feng Wu had been inside for an hour already. What did that mean? It was so obvious. But Feng Sun still wouldn't let go of his last hope. Maybe Boss Jun is asleep. Xian Yi rolled his eyes at Feng Sun. Feng Sun cried out, "I mean it. It's possible. Right?" Xian Yi grabbed Feng Sun's wrist. What? What are you doing? Xian Yi dragged Feng Sun toward the cabin. Xian Yi said, "To answer your question." He gave Feng Sun a teasing look. "We're going to put your theory to the test." Feng Sun said, "All right. Possibility number 1, Boss Jun isn't in love with Feng Wu, which is your belief. And little Feng Wu was able to stay inside for this long because Boss Jun fell asleep." Feng Sun nodded. Xian Yi said, "If that's the case, Boss Jun won't be mad with us if we go in now." Feng Sun nodded. That's right. Xian Yi had made up his mind that he would make Feng Sun see the light today. Otherwise, the goofball would be killed by Boss Jun one day. Xian Yi said, "All right, here's possibility number 2. Boss Jun is in love with little Feng Wu." Chapter 9:15, What's Wrong with Feng Sun? He deliberately made little Feng Wu stay behind for some quiet time alone. "What do you think will happen if we intrude on them now?" Feng Sun said, "He'll be furious." Xian Yi nodded. The next moment, he pushed Feng Sun toward the door and there was a loud bang. The door wasn't locked, so Feng Sun was shoved into the cabin. Feng Wu was wiping Jun Linyuan's hands at the moment. According to the crown prince, he would get peevish when his hands were dirty, and when he was peevish, he didn't feel like talking. When he didn't feel like talking, all in all, he would end up not wanting to share the frosty night beast's spiritual essence with Feng Wu, and she would end up getting a 0 in the exam. Would Feng Wu be threatened by that? She actually would. Therefore, she prepared some warm water and a white towel, and right now, she was sitting on a rush cushion as she wiped the crown prince's already pristine fingers one at a time. Feng Sun barged in at that moment. And he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Wiping hands. Jun Linyuan the neat freak would cut a person's hand off if they dared to touch him. But now, he was having little Feng Wu clean his hands. Blood rushed into Feng Sun's head and his mind went blank. He stood there dazed, as if he had just been struck by lightning. Without Feng Wu realizing it, Jun Linyuan's face darkened. He turned his sharp gaze on Feng Sun. Feng Sun's stomach lurched. Boss Jun was pissed. But since Feng Sun was here to test his theory, he might as well try everything. Like usual, Feng Sun rushed over to Feng Wu's side and began to push her toward the door. "What are you doing here, you silly girl? Are you waiting for Boss Jun to throw you out?" That had always been Feng Sun's strategy. He would get Feng Wu out of Boss Jun's sight whenever he saw them together. However, this time, Feng Sun was looking at Boss Jun out of the corner of his eye when he did so. And his heart sank. That was because Boss Jun's face had turned livid and he looked like he wanted to kill Feng Sun. Feng Sun was dumbfounded. Everything was clear. He saw it now, finally. Sensing Feng Sun's uneasiness, Feng Wu looked up. Feng Sun, are you not feeling well? She put her palm on Feng Sun's smooth forehead to check his temperature, but couldn't feel anything unusual. She then stood on tiptoe and touched Feng Sun's forehead with her own. Thump. A bedside table next to Jun Linyuan shattered into pieces. And something clicked in Feng Sun's head as well. Involuntarily, he pushed Feng Wu away from him. He used a little too much force in his panicked state, and it was only because of Xian Yi that Feng Wu didn't knock into the wall. Instead of minding her own well-being, Feng Wu went up to Feng Sun in a hurry and took his hand. Feng Sun, what's wrong? Why are you sweating so badly? Are you not feeling well? Here, let me check your... However, Feng Sun drew back his hand abruptly before Feng Wu could finish her sentence. Feng Wu stared at him in bewilderment. Had the man lost his mind? Before Feng Wu could ask another question, Feng Sun ran for the door. Hey! Feng Wu was so confused. What was going on? Xian Yi smiled wryly. I'll look after him. Feng Wu said, it's going to snow. Find him. He doesn't seem right to me. Xian Yi shook his head. The news was too big for Feng Sun to digest. Of course he didn't seem right. Little Feng Wu was probably the last person Feng Sun wanted to face right now. Xian Yi gave Feng Wu a solemn nod, then rushed out. What's wrong with Feng Sun? Chapter 9:16, Feng Sun, what's wrong with you? Feng Wu stared at Jun Linyuan in bewilderment. Meanwhile, Jun Linyuan tossed the warm towel into Feng Wu's lap. Wipe your hands. Feng Wu said, but they're clean. Jumping off the bed, Jun Linyuan marched toward Feng Wu. He then began to carelessly wipe her face. Meanwhile, Feng Sun, Feng Sun, Feng Sun. Xian Yi finally caught up with Feng Sun, who was standing in front of a cliff. Xian Yi smiled wryly. I see you figured it out. Feng Sun clenched his fists so hard that blue veins popped on the back of his hands. When did you find out? Feng Sun stared at Xian Yi. Not long, less than a month ago. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't. Xian Yi looked perfectly innocent. I tried, more than a few times. Think about it. Feng Sun was speechless. His head was a mess and he couldn't think straight. But he began to recall what Xian Yi told him. Xian Yi really had reminded him, more than once, but he only laughed at his friend in turn, saying that the guy was imagining things. As it turned out, Feng Sun realized that he couldn't have been more wrong. May I ask, how do you feel right now? Xian Yi was still teasing Feng Sun. How did he feel? Feng Sun scratched his head. He felt conflicted. He was shocked, angry, regretful, sad, conflicted, and ashamed. It was so overwhelming that Feng Sun couldn't think straight. Xian Yi. I'm gonna kill you. Ah. Before Xian Yi could react, Feng Sun charged at him and threw a punch at Xian Yi. Xian Yi knew that Feng Sun needed to vent his frustration now, or the guy would explode. Bring it on. Xian Yi calmly accepted the challenge. The wind that was kicked up blew snow off the ground, and blades glinted in the sunlight. The fight was so unexpected that everyone in the campsite was bewildered and flustered. Mu Yao Yao was still crying her eyes out when everyone rushed out. Young Lord Feng and young Lord Xian are fighting. Oh God, why? It's for real. Young Lord Feng just got kicked away. And he's back on his feet. Everyone had heard the noise, and Feng Wu was no exception. She rushed out of the cabin. Stop. Seeing how fiercely the two of them were fighting, Feng Wu cried out. By then, Xian Yi and Feng Sun were pretty much done, and Feng Sun had bruises all over his face. Naturally, Feng Wu ran toward Feng Sun first. Feng Sun took a step back as soon as Feng Wu opened her mouth. Feng Sun, what's wrong? Feng Wu took Feng Sun's hand, but he threw it off immediately. Feng Wu frowned. But before she could say another word, Feng Sun cast a stern look at Feng Wu. Don't talk to me. After that, he walked away as quickly as he could, as if he was being chased by some monster. That surprised the crowd. What's going on? Doesn't young Lord Feng care for Feng Wu a lot? That's right. He once said that Feng Wu was his friend, and that picking on Feng Wu would be the same as picking on him. But did you see the look he gave Feng Wu? It was as if he saw a ghost. Mu Yaoyao was ecstatic to hear that. Chapter 9:17. Oh, no. That is to say, young Lord Feng hates Feng Wu now. Mu Yaoyao cried out. Many in the crowd thought the same. Young Lord Feng hates Feng Wu. What did Feng Wu do to deserve that? Can't you tell? Yao Ying, Mu Yaoyao's minion, snorted. You've all seen how frivolous Feng Wu is. She was all over His Royal Highness in the beginning, and when that didn't work out, she moved on to Yuminji. I saw her going to His Royal Highness again just then. Of course young Lord Feng would be mad. How can Feng Wu do that? Young Lord Feng has every right to be mad. Mu Yaoyao smirked. She used to have Feng Sun to back her up, but now... Heh. Both His Royal Highness and Yuminji have stopped talking to her. I'd like to see who she can turn to now that she's lost young Lord Feng's support. In the outside world. Zhua Ming, the head of the Zhua clan, had requested to try and reconnect Imperial College with proud Snowfield. What was more, the Zhua clan had a plan of their own. The news already spread before Zhua Ming came to court. Your Majesty, Master Bai whispered in Emperor Wu's ear, the families of the candidates are petitioning outside. They're all kneeling outside the city gates, begging for Master Zhua to try his method. Emperor Wu's face turned livid. Your Majesty. The Empress Dowager stared at Emperor Wu. The Crown Prince is still trapped inside. Aren't you worried about his safety? She also wanted Zhua Ming to have a go. Your Majesty. Empress Dugu was on their side as well. Emperor Wu suddenly recalled the day Feng Wu killed Zhua He. After killing Zhua He, the girl said decisively that the Zhua family was responsible for destroying her true phoenix blood back then. Emperor Wu wasn't fully convinced then, but now when he saw how aggressive the family was, plus the fact that even his wife was on their side. Feng, what do you think? Emperor Wu tossed the ball to Grand Secretary Feng. Grand Secretary Feng said with a straight face, I have faith in Your Majesty and His Royal Highness. Emperor Wu nodded. He then turned to the Empress Dowager. Mother, do you have faith in the Crown Prince? The Empress Dowager gritted her teeth. Of course she had faith in the boy. Her baby June was the best. He was a genius and he was invincible. She was so worried about him, but does Your Majesty think it's unnecessary to try? Emperor Wu nodded. I believe in my son. The Empress Dowager grunted. I do, too, but I'm still worried about his safety. Will the Crown Prince be affected by the process of reconnecting Imperial College to proud Snowfield? No, he won't. If that's the case, why don't we let Zhua try? The Empress Dowager snorted. Imperial College is supposed to be led by the most capable man. If Grand Secretary Feng isn't the right person, we should find a more suitable man. Emperor Wu frowned. The Empress Dowager then led him to one side. He's Zhua Qinghuan's father. Emperor Wu looked at his mother in bewilderment. He's the Crown Prince's future father-in-law. Emperor Wu narrowed his eyes. The Crown Prince doesn't have to. His mother snorted. Only a true phoenix like Zhuo Qinghuan is good enough for the crown prince. No one but her will have my blessing. Emperor Wu didn't know what to say. I shouldn't meddle in politics, but I will have my say on his marriage. The Empress Dowager smacked the table. Emperor Wu found her troublesome. Zhuo Qinghuan can wait. I guess it won't harm anyone to let Zhuo Ming try his method. Chapter 918, Imminent Danger. In the end, Emperor Wu decided that Zhuo Ming should try his method. Countless people gathered in the square outside Imperial College and waited for Zhuo Ming to work his magic. In proud snowfield. Feng Wu watched in bewilderment as Feng Sun walked away. Confused, she turned to Xian Yi. What's his problem? Of course she was confused. Feng Sun used to act like a hyperactive puppy around her, but he looked like he had been scared off by a ghost. He had practically run away. Xian Yi rubbed his chin. I think he's having a hard time facing you. Facing me? Feng Wu was even more confused. What did he do? Why is facing me that scary? Xian Yi rubbed his nose. Well. Just then. Buzz. Everyone heard a buzzing sound, which they had heard once before. Shit! Everyone blanched. Xian Yi involuntarily reached out for Feng Wu, and he did the right thing. A green tentacle was also trying to get to Feng Wu. If Xian Yi hadn't dragged her out of the way in time, she would have been snatched again. Frosty Night Beast! Feng Wu cried out. The next second. Rumble! The beast burst out of the snowy ground. Roar! With one growl, it blew away half of the candidates in the campsite. And it blew away the other half with a second growl. It then turned around and glared at Feng Wu. There was a frenzied, furious look in its eyes. Feng Wu then spotted a sword stuck in the Frosty Night Beast's chest. It was Jun Lin Yuan's Sky Destroyer. That was why she hadn't seen Jun Lin Yuan's sword earlier. It had pierced the beast's heart. But why wasn't the beast dead? Feng Wu realized that compared with the last time she saw it, the beast was now more powerful. Just as the Frosty Night Beast smashed its front paw down at Feng Wu's head. A tall figure landed from above and stood in front of Feng Wu. Feng Wu cried out, it's mutated. It's enhanced itself. That was to say, the beast had become even stronger. No wonder Sky Destroyer hadn't killed it, the beast was able to block the strike. Jun Linyuan gave off an intimidating air as he stood there. He seemed untouchable. The Frosty Night Beast made an eerie, triumphant sound. The next second, it leapt into the air. Jun Linyuan pushed Feng Wu away, but he remained where he was. He dropped to avoid the beast when it was almost onto him, and the next second, Sky Destroyer was back in his hand. Whoosh! As soon as the blade was drawn out, blood spurted out of the wound. It splashed everywhere and painted the ground red. The beast roared and charged at Jun Linyuan, and they both jumped into the air. Run! Feng Wu knew what was coming, and she warned the others, the fight will start an avalanche. Run or you'll be killed. The candidates were already scared. They had seen what an avalanche could do. They scattered as soon as they heard what Feng Wu said, and were soon out of sight. Mu Yao Yao wanted to stay, but Yao Ying warned her, you'll be in danger if you stay here. Do you think His Royal Highness will save you? Reality check. Mu Yao Yao felt as if she had been stabbed through the heart. But Feng Wu. Can't you tell by now? Chapter 919, Even Jun Linyuan isn't its match. Yao Ying took a deep breath. A bystander saw everything. Someone will come to her rescue. They always do. It could be His Royal Highness, Yu Minji, Xian Yi, or Feng Sun. Someone was always there for Feng Wu. As much as she hated to admit it, Mu Yao Yao couldn't retort. Slut! Mu Yao Yao cursed under her breath, then hurried off. You, leave us. Xian Yi gave Feng Wu a little nudge, then rushed over to help Jun Linyuan. Feng Sun also showed up out of nowhere. He ignored Feng Wu and ran to fight alongside Jun Linyuan as well. Feng Wu shook her head. That wouldn't do. That beast was so emboldened because it knew that it had poisoned Jun Linyuan. He had been forcing himself to act normally. Feng Wu looked up. Before the beast, Jun Linyuan looked so towering and invincible. But he really should be lying down and resting now. With every bit of spiritual essence he summoned, the toxin that had yet to clear from his system would move a little bit closer to his heart, bringing him one step closer to death. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She couldn't wait anymore. Thump! Feng Sun was smashed to the ground by the beast, and the impact created a pit in the snow. A pit? An idea struck Feng Wu all of a sudden. Yes. Feng Wu pulled Feng Sun out of the pit, but Feng Sun brushed her hand off as if she were a venomous snake. That was so strange. Feng Wu smacked Feng Sun on the head. I don't care what this is all about, but our lives are hanging in the balance now, and you have to listen to me. Feng Sun stared at her reluctantly. Feng Wu whispered, tell Jun Linyuan to lure that beast to the cave where I was saved before. You know, the one where those Qilin beasts were. Feng Sun only snorted before he jumped back into the fight. Feng Wu frowned. Did the guy hear her or not? No, he didn't, Yu Minji answered for her. Feng Wu tugged at his sleeve. Give me a hand. She then ran toward that cave as fast as she could. Yu Minji had planned to give Feng Wu some attitude, but he gave in as soon as Feng Wu touched his sleeve. What are we doing? Yu Minji asked curiously. I need to set up a formation, said Feng Wu hastily. Jun Linyuan is still injured and he's weak from the poison before. That frosty night beast has gone berserk. He won't be its match. He won't. Yu Minji was thrilled to hear that. Feng Wu smacked him on the head. Stop grinning. That beast holds a grudge against all of us, and no one will be able to fend it off if Jun Linyuan falls. We'll all be killed. That's serious. Yu Minji's eyes widened. That's serious. Feng Wu took a deep breath. Jun Linyuan is our only hope, and we'll all die miserable deaths if he's gone. We have to kill that beast. Then I'll go set up a formation and we'll trap the beast after they lure it here, Feng Wu explained. Yu Minji asked, but will Feng Sun tell Jun Linyuan what you just said? Feng Wu shook her head. I have no idea what's going on with that stupid man. They got to the cave in no time. Feng Wu started working on the formation immediately. What formation do you have in mind? Yu Minji asked curiously. Killing Flame. Feng Wu smirked. That frosty night beast was born and raised in the coldest part of the continent. Chapter 920, How Despairing. Feng Wu went on, that frosty night beast was born and raised in the coldest place on the continent, and we can't beat it with our own ice attribute. Therefore, we need to take another approach. We'll kill it with abnormal flame. Yu Minji said, but how are you going to set up the killing flame in time, let alone one that can kill that beast? Feng Wu was much too inferior to that beast in capability. Did she even realize that? Feng Wu smiled. That's where you'll come in handy. Yu Minji asked, how can I help? Well, a lot. Luckily, they had lost connection with the outside world, and Yu Minji here already knew about her recovering her ability. Otherwise, Feng Wu wouldn't know how to cover it up now. Meanwhile, Jun Linyuan and the beast were fighting fiercely. Feng Sun and Xian Yi had already been smashed to the ground. Both spat out blood and were too weak to get back up. Feng Sun struggled to his feet, but lost his balance almost immediately. Exasperated, he glared at the beast in frustration. Boss Jun was poisoned, and with all the fighting, the toxin might have reached his heart already. Feng Sun gritted his teeth and turned to Xian Yi. Is Boss June going to lose? Although it seemed that Boss June and the Frosty Night Beast had fought to a deadlock, Feng Sun and Xian Yi knew June Linyuan too well, and understood otherwise. Xian Yi's eyes flickered. It's not looking good. They exchanged looks and leapt up together. However, the beast was almost invincible once it went berserk. Thump. 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 Xian Yi and Feng Sun were smashed down after they hacked at its scales. Both spat out blood again. They saw despair in each other's eyes. Rumble. The Frosty Night Beast growled. The hand which June Linyuan was holding the sword with trembled. Shit! Feng Sun cried out. The poison is taking effect. I can see Boss June spitting out dark green blood. Xian Yi wanted to stand up, but even with the support of his sword, he couldn't. He only spat out more blood. He was truly full of despair now. Look at its eyes. Xian Yi cried out. They've gone red. Shit! Feng Sun struggled to his feet while pressing a hand to his chest. That beast has just gone berserk again. What's wrong with it? Xian Yi and Feng Sun exchanged looks, and both saw despair in each other's eyes. As capable as Boss June was, he was still a teenager. He had only been cultivating for so many years, not to mention that he still had poison in his system which was spreading inside him. Everyone here in Proud Snowfield will be slaughtered if Boss June falls. Feng Sun drained of all color and turned to Xian Yi. What should we do now? Are we all going to die here? Is there no other way? As he spoke. Thump. There was a loud sound. Sky Destroyer flew out of the hand of the seemingly invincible teenager. And its blade pierced the ground. The sword buried itself to the hilt in the snow with a splash. Xian Yi and Feng Sun looked even more despairing. Feng Wu. Feng Sun was finally able to think straight at that critical moment, and he recalled what Feng Wu had said before she left. Little Feng Wu told me to have Boss June lure the beast to that cave where those Qilin beasts were. Chapter 921, The Crown Prince's Plan. Xian Yi smacked Feng Sun on the head. Why didn't you say so earlier? Feng Sun hesitated. Little Feng Wu has zero cultivation ability, so I didn't think. It wasn't just any magical beast, but a Frosty Night Beast. Even Boss June couldn't handle it on his own. Xian Yi cut him off. She may not be a cultivator, but she's the best when it comes to formations and medical skills. Have you forgotten that? Xian Yi understood Feng Wu's plan as soon as Feng Sun mentioned the cave. Formation. That was definitely what the girl was getting at. Xian Yi gave June Linyuan a hand gesture as a signal. Having grown up together, June Linyuan got the hint immediately. The Qilin Beast's cave. Xian Yi didn't tell him everything, though. June Linyuan would never go to the cave if he knew that Feng Wu was waiting there. Hence, Xian Yi kept that from him. Suppressing the blood that was coming back up his throat, June Linyuan took a deep breath. He could handle that Frosty Night Beast if it had mutated just once. However, when it mutated again, he needed some help. The next second, June Linyuan spun around, and when the beast smashed down with its paw, he used the momentum to fly out like a kite. He was unbelievably fast. Frosty Night Beast didn't expect June Linyuan to run away. That proud teenager was actually capable of running away. The beast smirked, then ran after June Linyuan. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was busy setting up her formation. Seeing the stream of spiritual stones which poured out of Feng Wu's sleeve, Yuminji was baffled. These are all top-notch. Feng Wu nodded. Yup. Where did you get all these top-grade spiritual stones? You're rich. If these top-grade spiritual stones were sold on the market, the effect would be sensational. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. She was anything but rich. All these top-grade spiritual stones came from under Grand Secretary Fang's house, and what was left had to be reserved for that Tai formation. None of them were for sale. And you have storage equipment? Yu Minji stared at Feng Wu in amazement. She had to have one. These spiritual stones and the other things she was using to set up the formation couldn't have just popped out of thin air. Feng Wu didn't want to expose her ring space, so she took out the infinity storage bag Jun Linyuan gave her and waved it in front of Yu Minji's eyes. There. I've got this, babe. An infinity storage bag? Yu Minji cried out in surprise. Feng Wu was bewildered. Why are you so surprised? Why do you think? Yu Minji stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. You have an infinity storage bag in your hands. Do you know what that means? Feng Wu said, I think I do. It's just a storage bag, isn't it? Just? Yu Minji was flabbergasted. Do you have any idea how rare infinity storage bags are? Feng Wu looked perfectly innocent. Were they? Yu Minji went on, not to mention that the one you're holding is of a superior grade. Do you know what that means? What does it mean? It means that it's an infinity storage bag of the highest existing grade. No water or fire can damage it, and there's a blood bond between the bag and the owner. Other people won't be able to open it even if you lose it. What Yu Minji didn't tell Feng Wu was that the original owner would be able to locate the bag and retrieve it if they happened to lose it. Feng Wu wasn't convinced. That didn't sound right. Chapter 922, Two Swords Working as One, 1. She had been able to open this bag right away after Jun Linyuan dropped it. She detected no blood bond. You have to be mistaken. Feng Wu stared at Yu Minji. No, I'm not. Your infinity storage bag is definitely a superior grade one, because common storage bags have a capacity of a couple of cubic meters at most. But yours can hold hundreds of cubic meters worth of stuff. Am I right? Feng Wu nodded. Wait, Yu Minji's face lit up when he took another look at Feng Wu's bag. Let me have a look. Feng Wu handed him the bag. This can't be, Yu Minji's eyes widened. Isn't this the Grand Pure One's infinity storage bag? Yes, it was his. Feng Wu asked, who's the Grand Pure One? Yu Minji waved her off. He was this super tough magical beast that took the shape of a human being. It almost cost Jun Linyuan his life to kill that mutated King Kong monkey. So, how did the bag end up in your hands? Feng Wu said, he didn't want it and I picked it up off the ground. Yu Minji stared at Feng Wu as if he was looking at an idiot. You have no idea how valuable a storage bag like this is. It's worth a small fortune. Scratch that. It's worth more than a city. And you're telling me that Jun Linyuan just threw it away and you just happened to be there to pick it up? Feng Wu nodded. That's exactly what happened. Yu Minji said, I was there when Jun Linyuan fought the Grand Pure One and I can't begin to tell you how many people wanted this thing. Someone actually wanted to trade a fortress for it, and Jun Linyuan wasn't tempted at all. And he tossed it away just like that? And you became its new owner? Feng Wu insisted, I'm telling you the truth. Not buying it. Despite her casual tone, Feng Wu pondered Yu Minji's words. If the bag was so precious that Jun Linyuan wouldn't exchange it for a fortress, then why did he give it up and let her have it? Feng Wu was at a loss. Was it some kind of trap? Feng Wu examined the bag over and over again, but nothing seemed off. However, this wasn't the time to worry about that. Killing Flame was her top priority now. Hey, that King Kong monkey, what was its attribute? Feng Wu asked Yu Minji, caressing the bag. Yu Minji said, it was fire. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. Good. This bag would come in really handy. Once the formation was set up, Feng Wu would need a core to make it work. As for what she would use, hey, where did that bag go? Yu Minji couldn't see it anywhere after Feng Wu put it away, and he was intrigued. It'll be a key piece. You'll see. Feng Wu had just finished putting everything in place when heavy footsteps came from outside. "They're here." Feng Wu led Yuminji into the formation and she took shelter behind a pile of snow. She cautioned Yuminji, "Did you memorize everything I told you?" Yuminji said, "Don't worry. You can always count on me." Feng Wu rolled her eyes at him. "Since when?" Yuminji didn't know what to say. Jun Linyuan rushed in as they were speaking, and he immediately sensed the difference. A formation. He had been here when he rescued Feng Wu earlier, and there was no formation. But now, it was little Feng Wu. Chapter 923, Two Swords Working as One, 2. Jun Linyuan's face lit up. He saw it right away. This formation was a trap set up by Feng Wu, and the target was none other than that frosty night beast behind him. Roar! The beast charged into the cave when Jun Linyuan was still feeling a little dazed. Jun Linyuan wasn't as proficient in formations as Feng Wu was, but he was no newbie. Moreover, Feng Wu had left instructions when she set up the formation. The beast entered the cave to find itself faced with rolling mountains. The mounds were just mounds to Jun Linyuan, but to the beast, they were sky-high mountain peaks. Roar! The beast growled. Jun Linyuan swiftly made his way through the formation, the lower hem of his robe fluttering in the wind. That beast couldn't catch up with him. Realizing what Jun Linyuan's plan was, Feng Wu applauded him inwardly. Jun Linyuan was indeed an incredible guy. One look at the formation and he understood her strategy. He was using it against the beast now. Poor beast. It was all brawn and no brain. However, Jun Linyuan had both. If they carried on like this, they would be able to wrap this up very soon. That was it. Somewhere the beast couldn't see, thump. Jun Linyuan appeared suddenly from behind a corner and stabbed the beast with Sky Destroyer. The frosty night beast wanted to dodge, but it walked right into the trap which Feng Wu had set up. It was a pit with needles at the bottom. Whoosh! The needles were all as long as a palm, and they all pierced the beast's paw. They were steel needles specially made by Feng Wu, and which had been soaked in poison that would take effect at the lightest scratch, to say nothing of a pierced paw. However, it took time for the toxin to spread. The beast charged at Jun Linyuan, but Jun Linyuan disappeared into thin air in the next second. The beast was bewildered. Hiding in a corner, Feng Wu grinned. That was incredible. The mark she left for a hiding place was very subtle, but Jun Linyuan had still found it right away. Thud, thud, thud. With the help of the formation, Jun Linyuan made one successful strike after another at the beast. Poor beast. Without adequate intelligence, it couldn't do anything but take the blows. Thump. Jun Linyuan launched another strike. This time, Sky Destroyer slid across the beast's neck, and Jun Linyuan disappeared again, leaving a small cut behind. The frosty night beast growled in frustration, but could only stomp its paws. Jun Linyuan had disappeared again. This was the worst, getting hit without being able to fight back. And this time, Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Shit! Jun Linyuan was coming her way. That was impossible. She had hidden herself so well, and in order to get to her, one had to find the only true path among 99 illusional ones. But Jun Linyuan had just succeeded. Was the guy really not a formation expert? Before Feng Wu could react, Jun Linyuan had taken her by the wrist. You, Feng Wu cried out. You should be fighting that beast. Why are you even here? Jun Linyuan glared at Feng Wu. How can you stay here? You should leave now. Feng Wu raised her chin. The most dangerous place is the safest. I designed this formation and I know what it can do. However, at that moment. Chapter 924, Two Swords Working as One, 3. Crack. All of a sudden, ice began to cover the ground as well as the walls. It was freezing. It was already cold inside the cave, but it had just gotten colder. Feng Wu shivered involuntarily. It's freezing in here. Instead of checking the temperature, Jun Linyuan turned to look at the beast. By now, the beast was covered in wounds and blood was oozing out of all the cuts. It was surrounded by a strange energy. However, frosty white mist was rising from its body. Shit! Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan cried out in unison. It's releasing a frosty mist. Feng Wu grabbed Jun Linyuan's hand and cried out, it's going to destroy this formation with a low temperature. Feng Wu had to hand it to the beast. With all the wounds left by Jun Linyuan, it would only be a matter of time before it died from blood loss. Jun Linyuan would win the battle eventually. The Frosty Night Beast knew nothing about formations, but it could destroy what was trapping it here with sheer coldness. The formation would be deactivated if the temperature kept dropping. When that happened, they would have to start all over again. Without the help of the formation, the human teens would be at a disadvantage. Crack. More ice covered the ground as time passed, and the cracking sounds grew louder. They had to put an end to this. Jun Linyuan snuck up on the beast again. He struck down at the beast with Sky Destroyer, and realized in surprise that because of the ice covering its body, he was only able to make a shallow cut. The strike didn't hurt the beast. The Frosty Night Beast guffawed. It had been waiting for the teenager to show his face again. The beast stared at Jun Linyuan with its bloodshot eyes. It was injured, but so was Jun Linyuan. And both of them had been poisoned. As soon as it started releasing the cold energy again, Jun Linyuan had to make a move to fend it off. Crack. More ice covered the ground. However, Jun Linyuan sat down and began to make a hand seal. Soon, a streak of abnormal flame rose from his hands. More popped up to fight the ice. He had the fire attribute. And the beast had the ice attribute. One was trying to freeze the formation so that it would break apart. The other was trying to counteract with his abnormal flame to keep the formation active. Crack. The ice and the abnormal flame clashed. The range of their attacks kept shrinking until they were almost upon each other. Ice versus fire. They were clearly on equal footing, and neither one seemed to be able to gain the upper hand. So much so that they had reached an equilibrium. Meanwhile, an idea struck Feng Wu. Wait. They were in a stalemate, all they needed was a tipping point. What if she gave them that? Where are you going? Yu Minji grabbed Feng Wu's hand when she was about to jump out of the hiding place. It's now or never. Feng Wu took out the infinity storage bag which she had gotten from Jun Linyuan. Little Phoenix had been accumulating little balls of abnormal flame at Feng Wu's instruction. Little Phoenix had gotten its abnormal flame from Jun Linyuan, so the balls should do the job. Feng Wu only realized how precious the bag really was when Little Phoenix told her that it could store balls of abnormal flame in it. Feng Wu decided that she would have Little Phoenix store more on a daily basis. They might come in handy. Just then. Chapter 925, Life or Death. Feng Wu clearly saw that this was the moment. While Jun Linyuan and the beast were still in a stalemate. Jun Linyuan had a large ball of flame in front of him and the beast had a mass of frosty mist. It was like an incense stick that was burning at both ends. There was fire on one end and ice on the other. Neither would give in. Feng Wu's heart was pounding. This was it. It was time for that tipping point. What happened was quicker than words could describe. Raising the storage bag, Feng Wu poured the contents over the beast's head. Crash. The beast and Jun Linyuan were almost equal in capability, but then, Feng Wu joined the fight. Little balls of abnormal flame fell out onto the Frosty Night Beast's head. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. The next moment, roar. The Frosty Night Beast screeched. It wasn't just because of the little balls of fire. Jun Linyuan's abnormal flame gained the upper hand and crushed the beast. The fire soon surrounded the Frosty Night Beast and licked at its body. Ah! The frosty night beast felt as if its soul was burning. It growled. Rumble. The sound resonated in the formation. Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu cried out in unison, "Shit!" The beast had turned into a giant surrounded by both ice and fire, and it gave off a dark, malicious energy. The formation made a cracking sound, as if it was going to shatter. Taking Feng Wu's hand, Jun Linyuan dashed toward the cave opening. However, with a sweep of its giant paw, the beast trapped Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu in the formation. Seeing this, Xian Yi and the others wanted to run over and help the two of them. Feng Wu shouted, "Go! Now! You'll only get yourselves killed." Just then, the ceiling of the cave collapsed, and so did the formation under their feet. Roar! The frosty night beast howled. The sound disturbed everything within a 5 kilometers radius, and the ground shook violently. The ground shuddered with what felt like shock waves, which threw everyone off balance. Jun Linyuan would have been able to get Feng Wu out of the cave if he wasn't injured. However, with his injuries and the fierce fight, the toxin had spread through his body. Feng Wu saw that his skin was turning gray already. Even then, Jun Linyuan still shielded Feng Wu in his arms, making sure that none of the falling ice chunks hit her. And she wasn't affected by the strong wind either. Just then there was another cracking sound, and Feng Wu looked down. Damn it! The ground had opened up, and the crack was widening. It was too late for Feng Wu to warn Jun Linyuan now. Die! The wild beast ran into Jun Linyuan in one final attack. The gap opened into a bottomless pit. The fall would kill Jun Linyuan. That beast had smashed into Jun Linyuan with all its strength. Jun Linyuan was knocked off his feet. The impact was incredible. Jun Linyuan pushed Feng Wu away as far as he could before he was knocked over. He then fell into the gap. However, before the beast fell, it sucked in one final breath before Feng Wu could land on her feet. Chapter 926, What's Going On? The beast hated Feng Wu even more. For it wouldn't have lost if this human girl hadn't interfered. Hence, the beast had to take Feng Wu down with it. Poor Feng Wu. This had to be her unluckiest day. The frosty night beast sucked in one final breath to pull Feng Wu in its direction. No! Feng Wu cried out. But she still got sucked in. Boss Jun. Little Feng Wu. Feng Sun, Xian Yi, and Yu Minji shouted in unison. Everything happened so fast, and in front of their eyes, these two people fell into the gap. It seemed to be 1,000 meters down, and frosty mist filled the air. Crack. The gap was still growing wider. The moment Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu fell into the gap. In Imperial College. Zhuo Ming had arrived at Imperial College as planned. Because of his teleportation ability, he was going to take over Grand Secretary Fang's position as acting principal and get the special clearance level. Once he achieved what he was here for, he would officially become acting principal, for Grand Secretary Fang would take the blame and resign. At that critical moment. Crack, what's that noise? Many people in the square heard it. Everyone exchanged looks of bewilderment. Hey! Look! That screen! Someone cried out. All the parents looked up at the screen that had shown the candidate rankings before. The screen had gone dark after the communication loss, but right at that moment. It lit up again. What did that mean? All eyes lit up and everyone was elated. The communication is back, isn't it? Isn't it? Judging by the ranking, it should be the case. The first was Xianyuan Yi and the second Gongsun Qing. Grand Secretary Fang was about to give Zhuo Ming the right of power when it happened. Grand Secretary Fang cupped his hands at the latter. Mr. Zhuo, I'm afraid that this will have to wait. After that, Grand Secretary Fang and the other bosses of Imperial College entered the office that was for them alone. There. They would be able to see everything that was going on in Proud Snowfield. Mr. Zhuo, please wait here. Grand Secretary Fang gestured at Zhuo Ming. Zhuo Ming's face had turned livid. Why had Imperial College lost contact with those in proud Snowfield in the first place? Well, it had everything to do with Zhuo Ming. He was the one who had made it happen. Not only had he sent Blade after Feng Wu, he had also hired another mysterious figure, who was the one to cut communication between the Snowfield and the college. That was why he was confident that he would be able to repair the lost communication, and as a result, become the head of Imperial College. The position used to belong to Zhuo, his brother, so why couldn't he have it? However, the last thing he expected was for communication to come back on its own. What was going on? Zhuo Ming frowned. He couldn't understand it. Chapter 927, The Great Fisher. Meanwhile, the bosses had arrived at the office. The candidate rankings were already on display on the screen. Snow fell thick and fast, the snowflakes dancing in a hazy mist. Frost hung over the gleaming white snowfield. Grand Secretary Fang and the others cried out when they saw the amount of snow. It was so much thicker than the last time they set eyes on the snowfield. It had more than doubled. They couldn't begin to imagine how cold it had to be in proud Snowfield. No one could take their eyes off the candidates on the screen. The teenagers that used to be so vivacious looked miserable at the moment. Their cheeks were red and chapped from the cold wind and their lips had turned purple. Frost had covered their eyebrows and hair, turning them into human-sized snowmen. Grand Secretary Fang, many parents outside are demanding to see the live feed. One of the teachers came in and said to Grand Secretary Fang in a hurry. Grand Secretary Fang frowned. The request wasn't unprecedented, but His Majesty commanded that Mr. Fang should show the live feed of Proud Snowfield to the parents to spare them the anxiety. Grand Secretary Fang was still hesitating when the chief steward showed up. His Majesty had spoken, so of course, Grand Secretary Fang had to oblige. Hence, Grand Secretary Fang agreed with a wave of his hand. Show them. And transmit a feed to the royal palace, too. Naturally, Grand Secretary Fang knew that the Empress Dowager was worried about the Crown Prince. Now that she could see the Crown Prince again, she would be pleased. Zhuo Ming's stomach lurched when he heard the news. Shit! What if the camera caught the people he sent in? What should he do then? He had sent 2 teams of people in. One was the killing squad Blade, who was to hunt down Feng Wu. The other was a mysterious and powerful cultivator who was there to cut off communication. None of them could be seen. Zhuo Ming clenched his fists and realized that things were getting out of hand. Mr. Zhuo, you look concerned. Grand Secretary Fang gave Zhuo Ming a knowing look. Since the live feed was being made available to the public, Zhuo Ming was invited into the office as well. It was a place that normally was only accessible to the 7 elders of Imperial College. Zhuo Ming was perturbed, but managed to keep his composure. He smiled. You're making fun of me, Grand Secretary Fang. No one from my family is taking the exam this year, which is why I'm not concerned at all. Is that so? Grand Secretary Fang said in a casual tone. Zhuo Ming said a silent prayer, and hoped that Grand Secretary Fang didn't have too sharp a pair of eyes. Let's have a look at His Royal Highness first, then, Zhuo Ming proposed. Grand Secretary Fang had control over the live feed, and could decide which candidate would be shown on the screen. But Grand Secretary Fang shook his head. His Royal Highness isn't a candidate and can't be located like the others. What's more, His Royal Highness made himself untraceable from the beginning, which makes it impossible to show him on the screen. Unless... Zhuo Ming asked, unless what? Grand Secretary Fang said, unless he's with a candidate. Controlled by Grand Secretary Fang's mind, the screen showed the snowfield from a high vantage point as the camera quickly flitted through the land. Soon, the camera fixed on Xianyuan Yi. Xianyuan Yi was running for his life, along with the group of people behind him. Oh, God, the mountains have collapsed, and there's a great fissure in the snowfield. Shocked, Elder Xianyuan was the first to get to his feet. Chapter 928, Uncertain. They knew things would be bad in Proud Snowfield, but now that they saw the fleeing candidates. That fissure was chasing the candidates, and was widening as they watched. Any slower, and the candidates would all be swallowed up. They really could be killed. In the square, the parents saw their children running away from that huge crack in the ground, and they held their breaths in fear. OMG! Why is this happening? Why would they choose such difficult terrain for the candidates? They're just kids. Is my child going to die? Where is His Royal Highness? Didn't he lead a team in to save the candidates? Where are they now? Just then, the ground shook violently. Ah! There was a cry of surprise. That was Grand Secretary Fang's stomach turned, for he recognized the voice. It was Feng Wu. Feng Wu then showed up on the screen abruptly. Then, everyone watched as their revered crown prince was knocked into the grand fissure by a wild beast. No! They all watched in astonishment and covered their mouths in disbelief. That was Jun Linyuan. The crown prince that was supposed to be invincible and omnipotent. He had just fallen into a gap in the ground because of a terrifying magical beast. What on earth was that beast? The Frosty Night Beast. That's the king of Proud Snowfield. It owns the place. Elder Xianyuan stared at Grand Secretary Fang in disbelief. The Frosty Night Beast has shown up. Grand Secretary Fang had never looked so serious. He realized that he hadn't thought it through thoroughly enough. That Frosty Night Beast was too mighty a beast for Feng Wu to handle. She needed its Heart of Frost essence, but even with Yu Minji's help. It had been a reckless decision, way too reckless. However, Grand Secretary Fang had yet to recover from the shock when the beast sucked in one last breath before it fell. Phew! The beast sucked Feng Wu toward it. Everyone jumped to their feet. For they saw Jun Linyuan, the Frosty Night Beast, and Feng Wu fall into the bottomless pit together. Oh God! The Empress Dowager fainted after witnessing that scene. The entire imperial capital was in shock. His Royal Highness had fallen into that great fissure. Was he going to die? Could the invincible crown prince be killed? He was the hope of the empire. Quickly! Everyone prompted Grand Secretary Fang. Show us His Royal Highness. Grand Secretary Fang was equally worried. If anything happened to Jun Linyuan in Proud Snowfield, his days as the principal of Imperial College would be over. Moreover, it was common knowledge that the emperor couldn't afford to lose Jun Linyuan. Mother! Seeing Jun Linyuan fall into the abyss, Emperor Wu was also filled with apprehension, but his mother had just passed out from fear, and he had to be tough. Master Chu hadn't arrived yet, and Emperor Wu had to pinch his mother's philtrum to wake her up. Emperor Wu and his mother weren't alone in Sinang Palace. Empress Dugu was there, too. Empress Dugu had been fawning on the Empress Dowager lately, and she was all docile and demure around the old lady. As a result, the Empress Dowager found her more likable than before, and had allowed the Empress to keep her company more often. Hence, Empress Dugu saw it too. Jun Linyuan fell into that huge gap, and no one knew if he would survive. Chapter 929, Jun Linyuan is going to die. A look of pleasant surprise flickered in Empress Dugu's eyes, but she looked down before anyone else noticed. Was Jun Linyuan really going to die? If he did die, the crown would belong to the empire's second son, aka her son. The Empress Dowager woke up while Empress Dugu was allowing her imagination to run wild. My baby Jun, the Empress Dowager burst into tears and wouldn't let go of Emperor Wu's hand. What happened to baby Jun? How is he now? Emperor Wu didn't know any better and was equally flustered. Why isn't Grand Secretary Fang showing us anything? I need to see Jun Linyuan now. Emperor Wu summoned a servant. Go tell Grand Secretary Feng to show us what we want to see. As a matter of fact, Grand Secretary Feng had changed the image on the screen already. Luckily, Feng Wu was there, or they wouldn't have been able to see the Crown Prince. Whoosh! The wind was howling. Snatched by the beast, Feng Wu was stuck tightly to its belly. Looking down, Feng Wu saw a bottomless pit beneath them. Jun Linyuan, the beast, and herself were falling at a tremendous speed. Shit! Jun Linyuan had fallen first, followed by the beast with Feng Wu stuck to its belly. If they hit the ground now, Jun Linyuan would be on the bottom. When that happened, even someone like Jun Linyuan would be crushed to a pulp. They weren't that far from the bottom, so Feng Wu reached out to grab Jun Linyuan. Everyone saw it on the screen. The Empress Dowager was the most nervous one. She pressed her hands to her chest and prayed for Jun Linyuan. However, Feng Wu missed. She nearly fell off the beast's belly herself. Feng Wu grabbed the beast's fur to steady herself. This wouldn't do. She needed a strategy. And she needed it now. Otherwise, Jun Linyuan would die. She wasn't the only one who was concerned, so was everyone who was in front of the screen. Especially the Empress Dowager. Clenching her fists, the old lady murmured, "Little Feng Wu, I'll treat you nicely from now on if you can save my baby Jun. You have to save him." However, next to her, Empress Dugu smirked. Feng Wu was a good-for-nothing. How would she be able to save Jun Linyuan? What a joke. But Feng Wu. She's a cripple with no spiritual essence, Empress Dugu sighed and feigned a worried look. Instantly. Sinang Palace fell into a despairing silence. That was right. Feng Wu had no cultivation ability. There was no way she could stop an unconscious Jun Linyuan from falling, let alone drag him up and prepare for the impact. The Empress Dowager couldn't see any hope. "Feng Wu, I'll have your entire family killed and the rest of your clan banished if you can't save the Crown Prince," the Empress Dowager bellowed. The Empress Dowager knew that Feng Wu wasn't to be blamed for losing her ability, but she was still furious. Everyone in the room felt sorry for Feng Wu. Grand Secretary Feng and the others had also hurried over to the Imperial Palace, so that the Empress Dowager could question them. The faces of Emperor Wu and his mother were livid. The entire Sinang Palace seemed to be covered in a dark cloud. Chapter 930, Is Jun Linyuan dead? 1. No one could predict how the emperor and his mother would react if Jun Linyuan was killed. Neither could Feng Wu. But she still instinctively tried to save Jun Linyuan. What was more pressing was that she didn't know that communication was back on. Grand Secretary Feng wanted to remind Feng Wu, but his voice couldn't go through. Only then did Grand Secretary Feng realize that the girl had turned her sound off. Because of that, Grand Secretary Feng felt anxious for Feng Wu. If things didn't go as planned, the girl would be in a lot of trouble. However, what was more important was for her to get through this. One of Feng Wu's merits was that danger only cooled her head. They were almost at the bottom, and she was running out of time. Feng Wu took out a rope, tied herself to the beast, then jumped off. Whoosh! The next moment, she was next to Jun Linyuan. Those watching in front of the screen held their breaths for Feng Wu. It was easy to pull this off if she were on flat ground, but she was able to stay level-headed while falling through an abyss. That surprised everyone. The Empress Dowager stared at Feng Wu and wished that she could go in herself to drag Jun Linyuan out. But Feng Wu might have reached Jun Linyuan, but it wasn't easy to pull Jun Linyuan up. Thanks to Feng Wu's swift moves and tough nerves, she was able to grab Jun Linyuan while they were falling. However, it was a different story when she wanted to get them back onto the beast. Her best option right now was to wake Jun Linyuan up. She patted Jun Linyuan's cheek. "Wake up. Wake up now." In such a situation, Feng Wu used a bit too much force. That enraged the Empress Dowager. What's wrong with Feng Wu? She's hitting him so hard she could kill him. Grand Secretary Feng darted a look at the Empress Dowager. That was all she cared about in this moment of life and death. But in fact, many people found what Feng Wu was doing infuriating. Especially the girls. Jun Linyuan was like a deity no one should ever defile, but what was Feng Wu doing? She was slapping him. How could she bring herself to do it? Feng Wu was busy saving Jun Linyuan, and had no idea that she was being observed by so many people, let alone the fact that those people were hating her for it. Feng Wu was exasperated. She could only count on herself if Jun Linyuan remained unconscious. Feng Wu shifted in the air, tied Jun Linyuan on her back, then tried to climb up the rope. They were already falling at a frightening speed, but now, she was trying to climb up. That was impossible. Just then. Crack. Feng Wu looked up to see the beast turn its head and stare at her with its beady eyes. Shit! Feng Wu cursed under her breath. The beast wasn't dead. It was still breathing. It had kept very still, so Feng Wu had been sure that it was dead. But it wasn't. Shit! As if it wasn't difficult enough. Why was it so hard to live in this world? In front of the screen. Everyone's stomachs lurched when they saw the beast open its eyes. It was especially so with the Empress Dowager. Chapter 931, Is Jun Linyuan dead? 2. Seeing that the beast was still alive, the Empress Dowager gasped in astonishment. It's still alive. How can it still be alive? She would tear the beast into pieces, if she could. And the rest of the audience was as flustered as she was. Would Jun Linyuan survive? That was the question that lingered in everyone's heads. Emperor Wu clenched his fists anxiously. Feng Wu, you have to make it work. The empire couldn't afford to lose Jun Linyuan, the greatest heir to the throne in history. By then, many had arrived at court in a hurry, but only a handful were permitted to enter Sinang Palace. Lady Northern Feng was one of them. She rushed into the palace like a gust of wind. What now? What's happening? Is His Royal Highness in danger? Lady Northern Feng went up to the Empress Dowager in a hurry, for the latter looked awful. The Empress Dowager seemed to settle down a little after Lady Northern Feng arrived. She forgot about Empress Dugu right away and grabbed Lady Northern Feng's hand instead. Yaya, look! Baby Jun. Lady Northern Feng looked up at the screen. At that moment, Feng Wu had Jun Linyuan tied onto her back and was climbing up the rope. However, the beast still clung to life, and was trying to sever the rope. Feng Wu had tied the rope to the beast's leg, and it was now scraping at the rope with its claw. Luckily, it was already very weak, or the rope would have been cut already. However, the thick rope was being picked apart bit by bit. It would break, eventually. Gradually, the rope wasn't able to hold the weight of two people. Everyone in front of the screen realized that if Feng Wu abandoned Jun Linyuan now, she would be able to climb back onto the beast and survive the fall. She wouldn't, if Jun Linyuan was still on her back. Seeing Feng Wu begin to untie Jun Linyuan from herself, the Empress Dowager was furious. Pointing at Feng Wu, she bellowed in a trembling voice, "What's she doing? What's she trying to do? What was Feng Wu going to do?" It was the thought that was in the minds of many. Was Feng Wu going to abandon Jun Linyuan now to save her own life? In a moment of life and death, would she choose someone else's life over her own? Many asked themselves the question, and the answer was no. There was nothing wrong with Feng Wu's choice. However, it was a live feed, and people were watching. If Feng Wu did that and came out alive, she would wish she were dead after she left the snowfield. The royal family's revenge would be unimaginable. Moreover, she wouldn't be the only one to receive a death sentence, so would everyone who had the slightest connection to her. Lady Northern Feng clenched her fists and her face tightened. Grand Secretary Feng was equally nervous. He hadn't felt like this for many years. But Feng Wu's choice was unexpected. The beast guffawed and was ready to embrace the ground, when Feng Wu threw Jun Linyuan upward with all her might. The strength she exerted, it was unbelievable. Chapter 932, She's Not a Cripple. 1. Grand Secretary Feng's stomach lurched. Oh no, Feng Wu's cultivation ability had been exposed. She would never be able to throw Jun Linyuan upward for over 100 meters if she didn't have any spiritual essence. Moreover, a bird also popped out of thin air. It grabbed Jun Linyuan and stopped him from falling too fast. That bird was none other than her mount. Without spiritual essence, she would never be able to form a bond with a magical beast, so that it would do as told. Little Feng Wu, you've just exposed yourself. But Grand Secretary Feng scanned the room and realized that everyone was too concerned about Jun Linyuan's safety to notice what Feng Wu had done. He sighed inwardly with relief. However, at that moment, the beast wouldn't give up. It stared at Feng Wu and smirked. Immediately after that, it summoned all the strength it had left and hurtled downward in Feng Wu's direction. It would take as many lives with it as possible. People watched as the beast fell on Feng Wu like a collapsing mountain. Shit! Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She emitted a streak of flame at the last moment, which shot the beast in the eye in a blazing beam of light. Thud! It pierced the beast through its eye. The beast screamed, and the sound was ear-splitting. By then, Feng Wu had almost reached the bottom. At the last moment, she threw the rope around the beast's neck and swung herself up. Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan landed on the beast almost at that exact moment, and the impact nearly shattered their bones. But it successfully balanced out the momentum of their fall. What was more, they bounced off the beast a little, and were actually a little further up in the air than before. But the ground was less than 100 meters away. The beast crash landed first. Thump! Feng Wu calculated the angle carefully so that she and Jun Linyuan fell right on top of the beast's plump belly. Thump! The beast's stomach exploded, and entrails spurted out. Some even fell on Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan's clothes. By using the beast as a buffer, Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan didn't suffer very severe injuries from the fall. Concerned with Jun Linyuan's existing wounds, Feng Wu made sure that he landed on top of her. Ouch! Jun Linyuan's head hit her right in the chest and nearly knocked the air out of her. Luckily, they both survived. In front of the screen, everyone watched with open mouths. Feng Wu was able to kill the beast at the last moment, used its body as a cushion, and chose the perfect angle to land. Everything she did had been unexpected. Is that Feng Wu? Did she really do all that? Am I seeing things? Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. How did she do it? Wait! Someone in the crowd cried out. It was Elder Xianyuan. Isn't Feng Wu a cripple with no cultivation ability? Did she look like she had no spiritual essence? The old man asked the crowd. That reminded everyone. That was right. Feng Wu's moves were so swift and smooth that even a cultivator would find it hard to pull them off, let alone a cripple with no abilities. Chapter 933, She's Not a Cripple. 2. If that's what a cripple looks like, then what are we? Wait, did you notice the flame Feng Wu used to kill the beast with? She was using the fire attribute. She has abilities, okay? And there's more. That bird is a spiritual pet, and can only be joined to its owner by a spiritual contract. She can't be a cripple. Soon, everyone was talking about it. Grand Secretary Feng rubbed his forehead. Feng Wu was exposed, she really was. 2 people in the crowd had already gone green in the face. They were Zhuo Ming and Empress Dugu. Feng Wu was no longer a cripple. She had spiritual essence. Judging by the way she moved, she was a pretty good cultivator, too, and not just some newbie. Zhuo Ming looked shaken. They had made sure that Feng Wu's true phoenix blood was destroyed, but she somehow got it back. Zhuo Ming clenched his fists. He decided that he would write to Zhuo Qingyuan about it after he got back. Emperor Wu and the Empress Dowager were equally shocked. Feng Wu had spiritual essence. How had she been able to keep it from everyone? Emperor Wu recalled something Feng Wu had said before. She claimed that everything had been the Zhuo family's doing. So, was she afraid of the Zhuo family acting against her if they found out? At that thought, Emperor Wu darted a look at Zhuo Ming out of the corner of his eye. What he saw made Emperor Wu think. Zhuo Ming really did look awful. So, exactly how reliable was Feng Wu's accusation? On the other hand, the only thing the Empress Dowager cared about was her grandson. Where's my baby June? Is he alright? Why isn't he awake? Everyone was still shocked by the fact that Feng Wu had spiritual essence, and they had forgotten about the Crown Prince for a moment. At the reminder, everyone turned their attention back to the Crown Prince. By then, Feng Wu had dragged Jun Linyuan off the beast. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in surprise. She's so rough. Empress Dugu grunted. That she was. Feng Wu pulled the Crown Prince out of a bloody pile as if she was handling a ragged doll. She showed him no consideration. It looked merciless. That was why everyone was so astonished. Especially the girls. How could she do that? The Crown Prince was like a god to them, and the thought of doing anything to him felt like defilement. They would be satisfied with looking at the teenager from afar, but what did Feng Wu do? She grabbed his arm and dragged him out. As if he was one of that beast's entrails. Many were indignant at the sight. In Xinang Palace, the Empress Dowager's face had turned livid. Her gaze was so intense that it could bore into Feng Wu's skin. Seeing the look on the old lady's face, Grand Secretary Fang sighed inwardly. Little Feng Wu, you really should be more careful about such things. Someone mumbled something at that moment. Isn't Feng Wu supposed to be in love with His Royal Highness? Is that how one shows their affection? Many looked puzzled. Judging by how rough Feng Wu was, they couldn't see any sign of her being in love with His Royal Highness. That baffled everyone in Xinang Palace, as well as all the people watching the live feed on the screen outside. Because of the Emperor's order, the live feed was being broadcasted to the public. Chapter 934, She's Not a Cripple. 3. Although they couldn't hear Feng Wu's voice, for the screen was on mute, everyone could see what was going on. It was such big news that it spread in no time. The entire imperial capital heard about it in a matter of minutes, and more people rushed to the square outside Imperial College. The place was soon packed. Feng Lu and her parents were there. So was Duan Chaoga's family. And Yi Yifei. Many more were arriving at the square. They all saw how roughly Feng Wu handled the Crown Prince, and Feng Yanfeng was furious. He wanted to throttle that idiotic girl. That was the Crown Prince. Did she know what she was doing? Everyone was talking at the same time. Duan Chaoga's parents were there as well, and Mr. Duan darted a look at Feng Yanfeng when he saw what Feng Wu was doing. Mr. Duan said, Master Feng, that daughter of your family. Feng Yanfeng said, she has brought shame to my entire family. I'm sorry you had to see it. Feng Yanfeng was conflicted. When would it end? What other blasphemous thing would Feng Wu do? Feng Yanfeng was on edge. Someone in the crowd made a comment. I thought Feng Wu was in love with His Royal Highness, but it doesn't look like it. His Royal Highness cancelled his marriage contract with Feng Wu. After such a humiliation, she would never be in love with His Royal Highness. What are you even thinking? But His Royal Highness is so exceptional. What's wrong with liking him? His Royal Highness is extraordinary, but Feng Wu isn't too bad herself either. Feng Wu. Not too bad. Her nickname is Failure Wu. Don't you know that? My friend, you missed the first half, didn't you? What first half? If you were here earlier, you couldn't have missed it. Feng Wu has spiritual essence, and she's no failure Wu. She was actually pretty impressive. Feng Yanfeng's head went blank when he heard those words. What? Feng Wu had spiritual essence. Ha, impossible. Feng Yanfeng didn't buy it, for he hadn't detected any spiritual essence on Feng Wu. But the other person was very persistent. Feng Wu has cultivation ability, she really does. And her level is higher than a spiritual master. How do you know that? Everyone here knows. Feng Wu, His Royal Highness, and that frosty night beast were falling together. The onlooker then described what happened for those that had missed the first part. His narration was vivid and full of excitement. Really? Feng Wu actually saved His Royal Highness. And what she did sounds so complicated. You don't say. Feng Wu was really impressive. Do I need to remind you that she was considered a super genius 5 years ago? That's right. If that incident 5 years ago hadn't happened, she'd probably be as capable as His Royal Highness now. The onlookers started an animated discussion, and the topic was Feng Wu's cultivation level. Feng Yanfeng's eyes widened. So much so that his eyes popped out. How is that possible, how? Feng Yanfeng, Lady Wang, and Feng Lu exchanged looks of disbelief. Chapter 935, She's Not a Cripple. 4. That's not possible. They have to be mistaken, they have to be, Lady Wang murmured to herself. The news of Feng Wu recovering her ability hit Lady Wang the hardest. Because it would be a disaster for her. Was Feng Wu going to rise and become the star of the clan once more, like she used to be? That wasn't what disturbed Lady Wang the most. What really worried her was if Feng Wu found out that Feng Yanfeng's family had been involved in that incident 5 years ago. Lady Wang's pupils contracted. Feng Lu was so nervous that she thought her heart was going to jump out of her throat. Her mood was darker than a stormy sky. No. They had to be mistaken. Feng Lu would rather die than admit the truth. And she wasn't the only one. Yi Yifei, Duan Chaoyue, and many other girls all wished that it was just a nightmare and that they would wake up soon. Meanwhile, Feng Wu went on with her task, without any idea that her actions were being scrutinized by the entire city. After dragging Jun Linyuan away from the beast, she found somewhere flat and lay him down. Feng Wu shook the teenager. Your Royal Highness, wake up. However, Jun Linyuan was drained of all color under the blood which covered his face. His eyes were shut tight and his teeth were clenched together. He was unconscious. Feng Wu checked his breathing. The look on her face changed. The Empress Dowager panicked when she saw the grim look on Feng Wu's face. What's going on? What happened to my dear baby Jun? Many cried out with her. The toughest part was over. Your Royal Highness, you can't die now. Feng Wu then checked Jun Linyuan's pulse, and her face darkened further. The toxin had reached his heart, and he was in grave condition. He really would die if she didn't do something now. Whoosh! Feng Wu untied Jun Linyuan's robe, exposing the fair skin of his chest. That woman had just taken His Royal Highness's clothes off. Many girls found her actions outrageous, but wished more than anything that they could take Feng Wu's place. The Empress Dowager didn't react, for she knew that Feng Wu was examining Jun Linyuan. However, the next second, no one could believe what they were seeing. Feng Wu lowered her head, stared at Jun Linyuan, then put her mouth on Jun Linyuan's with such a resolute look on her face that one would think that she was embracing her death. What? OMG! The crowd exploded. Feng Wu, she. What's she doing? What does she think she's doing? His Royal Highness is in critical condition, but all she can think of is taking advantage of him when he's unconscious. Oh, God, I thought she didn't have feelings for His Royal Highness just then, since she didn't show him any compassion earlier. I can't believe how sleazy she is. This is so scary. That woman is so scary. I want to kill her. Feng Yanfeng blanched. Feng Wu. She had lost her mind. Xinang Palace. The Empress Dowager's face had turned purple, and Emperor Wu looked equally mad. Feng Wu. That Feng Wu. I'm going to kill her. I will. The Empress Dowager clenched her fists and her face twisted. For a moment there, she thought that Feng Wu was going to save her grandson. And she actually believed that Feng Wu wasn't in love with her baby June. Chapter 936, She's Not a Cripple. 5. She should never have trusted that girl. What was going to happen next? The Empress Dowager couldn't bring herself to think about it. Out. Everyone out. The Empress Dowager believed that she knew where this was going. That Feng Wu. She was so dead. The Empress Dowager swore in her head. Only then did Emperor Wu wake up from the initial shock and turn to Grand Secretary Feng. Is the screen outside still showing this? Grand Secretary Feng smacked his own head. He had been so shocked by Feng Wu's action that he had completely forgotten about the big screen outside the college. Turn it off. Now. Emperor Wu bellowed at Grand Secretary Feng. Grand Secretary Feng nodded repeatedly. And he didn't even have to go out to do that, for he could control it with his mind. Click. The screen outside went dark right away. Instantly. The people in the square went wild. What was happening was so rare that everyone who had heard the news was here. The square that was built to contain 10,000 people was packed with 10 times more that. And still more people were flooding in. But the screen had turned off at such a critical moment. People were displeased. What's going on? Why did that happen? Why is it switched off? That was the most important part. Why aren't we allowed to watch it? Where are the people in charge of the screen? Fix it. Compared with the others, who were eager to know what was going on, Feng Yanfeng stood there with a face darker than ink. He had never expected something like this. How could Feng Wu? Oh, God. Feng Yanfeng really thought that the Feng clan was doomed. The entire clan would be annihilated. Mr. Duan offered a piece of advice. Master Feng. I don't think Miss Feng Wu will survive the consequences even if she makes it out alive, but you still have to think of the future of so many other youngsters in your clan. He couldn't have made himself any clearer. The Empire would punish Feng Wu for what she had done. They had seen it, and it went without saying that Her Majesty the Empress Dowager had seen it, too. Would she let Feng Wu go without any punishment? Obviously not. Therefore, thank you, Master Duan. Without hesitation, Feng Yanfeng took Lady Wang and Feng Lu with him and hurried back home. Once he got back, he summoned his clansmen and made arrangements for them to flee the imperial capital. But that would be something to talk about later. Everyone in the square felt indignant at what they saw. Feng Wu's fame was gone as quickly as it had been earned. However, Feng Wu had no idea of any of this. She was busy using CPR to save Jun Linyuan. The fight with the beast had caused the toxin to spread. The beast had then knocked Jun Linyuan down and pushed them into the gap. It had been one thing after another, and even Jun Linyuan couldn't endure it. He was in a coma. Feng Wu released Jun Linyuan after breathing into his mouth. Everyone in Xinang Palace let out breaths of relief, but to their fury, Feng Wu bent down again. How can she do that? She's lost her mind. That has to be it. The Empress Dowager wanted to smash the screen. However, Feng Wu was in a good mood, for Jun Linyuan was breathing again. It was shallow, but his life was no longer in danger. Chapter 937, What to do now? Feng Wu knew that she was only getting started. Hence. Whoosh. Feng Wu began to take off the rest of Jun Linyuan's clothes. Fast. His robe, his shirt, his undergarment. Jun Linyuan was already bare-chested, and he was stripped down to thin mid-length underpants. Seeing this, the Empress Dowager thought she was going to lose her mind. Her baby Jun was a neat freak and a very serious one. He couldn't stand any woman being within a meter of him. But now, Feng Wu, that abominable girl, was taking advantage of him. How dare she? Out! Everyone out! The Empress Dowager gave the order to the other people in the room. Of course she wouldn't let them stay. Before long, everyone was thrown out of the palace. The Empress Dowager and Emperor Wu stayed behind. Empress Dugu wanted to stay, but the mother and son wouldn't let her. Lady Northern Feng, on the other hand, trusted Feng Wu as always, so she held the old lady's hand, went down on her knees, and begged the latter to let her stay. Your Majesty, Feng Wu is my goddaughter and I don't believe she would do such a thing to the Crown Prince. Your Majesty, please let me stay. If Feng Wu really does what you think she's going to do, I'll kill her myself. The Empress Dowager glared at Lady Northern Feng. She had forgotten all about the fondness she had for Lady Northern Feng. As a matter of fact, the old lady was mad at Lady Northern Feng because of her relationship with Feng Wu. Emperor Wu, on the other hand, waved it off. Yaya's right. She's Feng Wu's godmother after all. So, let her stay. He didn't think much of it, for he didn't believe in men getting taken advantage of. But what happened next baffled them. Feng Wu took out a pack of acupuncture needles after she removed Jun Linyuan's clothes. She then unrolled the pack, took out a finger-long thin needle, and stuck it into the top of Jun Linyuan's head with steady fingers. All three people opened their eyes wide. Seriously? They had been expecting X-rated images, but Feng Wu was actually treating Jun Linyuan with acupuncture. What Feng Wu did next only convinced them more. She went on sticking more needles into Jun Linyuan. There were 21 in total, which were stuck into his head, chest, abdomen, and even the bottoms of his feet. Feng Wu raised her hands when all the needles were in place. Pale green dots of light fell from her fingertips like fireflies. That. The Empress Dowager was dumbfounded. She's doing something spectacular, isn't she? Emperor Wu opened his eyes wide in amazement. That's right. Master Chu is the only other physician I know of who can treat patients with this sort of green light. And Master Chu was a supreme-level medicine refiner. He was the best medicine refiner in the Bureau of Physicians. Lady Northern Feng could finally breathe normally again. For a moment there, she thought she was going to have a heart attack. Come to think of it, Feng Wu was really an amazing physician. She could even use that green light. Xiao Wu is almost as good a physician as Master Chu is, right? Lady Northern Feng asked gingerly. Emperor Wu glanced at Lady Northern Feng. He wanted to tell her that Master Chu wasn't able to emit as much green light as this during his treatment, and his light wasn't as green and full of spiritual essence as Feng Wu's either. Chapter 938, His Twinkling Eyes. Emperor Wu didn't want to admit what that meant. The Empress Dowager gritted her teeth. So, the girl has been trying to save baby Jun all along? Lady Northern Feng and Emperor Wu nodded in unison. The old lady snorted. Fine. But why did she kiss baby Jun? Was that a down payment? Lady Northern Feng said, Your Majesty. I've heard about this method of breathing into another person's mouth. It's said to be a way to save those that aren't breathing. Really? The Empress Dowager asked. Lady Northern Feng nodded. Yes. I think that was what little Feng Wu was doing. The Empress Dowager snorted. How can you tell? There will be consequences if she can't save baby Jun. Lady Northern Feng rubbed her forehead. The Empress Dowager was so biased. What had Feng Wu done to deserve this? Did she want to be snatched by the beast? Did she make the wrong move in trying to save Jun Linyuan? And shouldn't she try to get Jun Linyuan breathing again? And what was wrong with treating June Linyuan with acupuncture? She should be applauded, even if it was just for her efforts alone. However, to the old lady, Feng Wu would be executed if she failed to cure June Linyuan. Poor kid. Lady Northern Feng sighed and said a silent prayer for Feng Wu. Meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, Feng Wu was treating June Linyuan with her green light. And it could cure anything. The light flitted around June Linyuan like fireflies, and the dots danced in the air like little fairies. It then seeped into his skin and entered his system. Once all the light had been absorbed. To Feng Wu's relief, she saw June Linyuan frown a little. Recalling what a neat freak June Linyuan was, Feng Wu wet her handkerchief with some ice water and began to wipe him clean. That was what June Linyuan saw when he woke up, Feng Wu tidying him up. Her bright eyes looked stunning in her tiny face. While she cleaned him, there was something very gentle about her, which was something he very rarely saw. June Linyuan watched her movements with half-closed eyes. "You," his husky voice sounded mesmerizingly sexy. Feng Wu said grumpily, "You're still very sick. The toxin isn't completely out of your system yet and it's given you a fever. It's very serious. So, don't talk and lay still." Despite his weakened state, June Linyuan still had a brooding look in his eyes, which reminded one of the bottomless ocean. The only thing he did was to touch his lips lightly with his fingers. His eyes twinkled. Feng Wu hadn't thought much of it when she performed the CPR, but June Linyuan's movement gave the whole thing a different meaning. She threw a dirty look at June Linyuan. The tiniest smile appeared in June Linyuan's eyes, but it was gone in a split second. Even Feng Wu missed it, let alone the other people watching. Outside Sinang Palace, Zhuo Ming clenched his fists with a livid face. Zhuo Qinghuan had been rising rapidly in the last 5 years, and so had the Zhuo family. They had moved from the bottom of the list up to 5th of the 9 major clans. They had always been convinced that Feng Wu was a good-for-nothing, and the killing squad had only been sent in to tie up loose ends. Zhuo Ming was genuinely surprised that Feng Wu had gotten her ability back. How had she done it? Did she still have true phoenix blood? Chapter 939, Baby June is my top priority. Grand Secretary Fang counted the number of days in his head. The 7 days would be up in a few minutes, and he prayed that Feng Wu would be very careful in the little time that was left. She couldn't afford any mistakes now. What she was doing just then. He hoped that she was only doing it to save the teenager. On the other side of the screen, Feng Wu smacked her head. "Hey, I almost got my priorities wrong." She then ran off, leaving June Linyuan behind. The Empress Dowager was dumbfounded. Her baby June was the apple of her eye and the crown prince of the empire. What was that Feng Wu girl doing? She left him in the middle of treatment. What was she up to? The camera followed Feng Wu, for she was the candidate. The Empress Dowager watched as Feng Wu ran over to the beast and stuck her fair hands into its chest. She began to fumble around inside. The old lady frowned and her face turned livid. How was that beast more important than her baby June? A moment later, Feng Wu took out a fist-sized heart from its chest and carefully put it into a storage bag. The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up. She grabbed Emperor Wu's hand immediately and asked loudly, "That storage bag belongs to my baby June, right? It's his, isn't it? I saw it on him the other day." Emperor Wu nodded. "Yes, it's his." The Empress Dowager frowned. "But why is that girl using my baby June's bag? How did she get her hands on it? Did she steal it from him?" Feng Wu had never left a good impression on the old lady. With everything that had happened, she only disliked Feng Wu more. Lady Northern Feng tried to speak up for Feng Wu. She couldn't have. She wouldn't dare to do such a thing. There has to be some sort of misunderstanding here. The Empress Dowager cast a stern look at Lady Northern Feng. Why couldn't she? Tell me how else she got it, then. Humph. Lady Northern Fong rubbed her forehead. That was what the old lady was like. She wouldn't hear one bad word about people she liked, but for those that didn't earn her affection, she wouldn't give them a chance. The old lady stared at Feng Wu. Why isn't she treating my baby June? What's she doing there? Then, the old lady saw Feng Wu put a hand on the beast's forehead, and a faint streak of spiritual essence flowed from the beast to Feng Wu. Even a blind man could see that Feng Wu was absorbing the frosty night beast's spiritual essence. The Empress Dowager was furious. She smacked the table. My baby June is in such bad condition. Why is she carving out the beast's heart when she should be looking after him? And she's so busy absorbing that beast's spiritual essence. What's wrong with her? Lady Northern Fong darted a quick glance at the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty, that's no common magical beast. That's a frosty night beast. And its heart was known as the Heart of Frost Essence. Not to mention that the beast's spiritual essence was incredibly dense. Sure enough, Lady Northern Fong noticed the gray stars on Feng Wu's headband begin to flicker. Then, like little candles, they lit up one after another. 1, 2, 3, all 7. There were 7 of them in total, and only after the system deemed the candidate worthy of 700 points would they all light up. Chapter 940, Don't Forget Our Bet. Lady Northern Fong had to explain on Feng Wu's behalf. Your Majesty, little Feng Wu is still taking the exam. She'll get a 0 if she doesn't absorb the spiritual essence now. The old lady was still displeased. So what if she gets a 0? What does it matter? Are those marks more important than my baby June? Lady Northern Fong said in resignation, I heard that little Feng Wu made a bet with someone, and she'll die if she loses. The Empress Dowager said, she's more important than baby June. Yaya, is that what you're saying? Why are you on her side? Does that girl mean more than baby June to you? Lady Northern Fong was speechless. What more could she say at this point? She had no choice but to pick sides. His Royal Highness is more important, of course, but I'm sure Xiao Wu only did that because she knew that the Crown Prince was. What? The Empress Dowager cast a stern look at Lady Northern Fong. Lady Northern Fong was speechless. On the other side, Feng Wu finally drained the beast of all its spiritual essence, but she still wasn't satisfied with the outcome. If she hadn't been busy saving June Linyuan, she would have had more time to work on the beast, and could have absorbed much more spiritual essence. Just then, the countdown started. 10, 9, 8, 7. And the last second. Thud. Everyone was teleported out of Proud Snowfield in that instant. Light flashed in Feng Wu's head, and the next second, she was in a teleportation space. All the candidates were there, except for the 100 that had withdrawn from the exam. During the short period of time before the exam ended, other than running away from that fissure in the ground, everyone had been hunting as many magical beasts as they could, so that they could accumulate more spiritual essence. The life-threatening danger was temporarily forgotten, and lighting up the stars became their top priority. Mu Yaoyao's first reaction was to look at Feng Wu. Feng Wu had a hat over her head, and Mu Yaoyao couldn't tell how many stars were lit up on her headband. However, Mu Yaoyao wasn't worried about it at all, for she remembered that the last time she saw it, Feng Wu didn't have a single star. Mu Yaoyao was thrilled when she thought about their bet. She had bet her own life against Feng Wu's. Feng Wu would have to cut her own head off if she couldn't get first in the physical tryout, or Mu Yaoyao would if Feng Wu did. Mu Yaoyao touched her neck. Her head was going to stay there for a very long time. She was sure of it. Hence, she gave Feng Wu a taunting look. Feng Wu, you didn't forget our bet, did you? Our bet? Feng Wu darted a look at Mu Yaoyao. Before Mu Yaoyao could reply, there was a whooshing sound. Everyone was teleported out. Outside, the royal guards had taken control of the square and cleared some space. As soon as Jun Linyuan showed up, and before he could say a word, he was carried off on a stretcher by those people sent by the Empress Dowager. Weakened and half-conscious, Jun Linyuan didn't try to resist. Mu Yaoyao felt sorry when she saw Jun Linyuan carried away. She had wanted the crown prince to watch while she had Feng Wu killed. It seemed that that wasn't going to happen. However, Feng Wu would die nonetheless. At that thought, Mu Yaoyao stared at Feng Wu coldly. Don't tell me you've forgotten our bet. Feng Wu, do you think you can get away with it that easily? Many people gave Mu Yaoyao strange looks at those words. Chapter 941, Impossible. Mu Yaoyao had her back to the screen and didn't see the rankings. Therefore, she took it for granted that Feng Wu hadn't made it into the top 200, for she still thought Feng Wu was that failure Wu that everyone knew. Feng Wu, many people were there to witness our bet. You can't deny it by saying that you don't remember it. Mu Yaoyao took a written copy of their agreement and smacked it on the wall. She shouted, "Everyone, look. Here's my bet with Feng Wu." The font was rather large, and people could see the words from a distance. Because of that, the looks on their faces became even stranger. Mu Yaoyao's attention was on Feng Wu the entire time, and she failed to notice the strange looks. She only sneered at Feng Wu. "See? Remember now. This is our bet. Look." Mu Yaoyao snorted as she pointed at the piece of paper. "You can have my head if you get first. But, if you can't, I'll have yours." A hush fell over the crowd. People were practically gawking at Mu Yaoyao now. The live feed might have been cut off, but the rankings were still there. Why would Mu Yaoyao humiliate herself like this? Feng Wu was facing the screen, and she saw her own name high up on the screen right away. She was first. Feng Wu frowned a little. "Do you really have to be so serious about the bet?" Mu Yaoyao laughed. So, Feng Wu was going to recant her words. But she would never let Feng Wu do that. She wanted Feng Wu dead. Hence, Mu Yaoyao smirked. "Stop trying to change the subject. It won't work. It's all written there, on paper. We had so many witnesses. You can't pretend that the bet never happened." Feng Wu shook her head. "Does it have to be that serious? Do you really want to put your life at stake?" "Yes. Watching you die will be the most satisfactory thing in my life." "You're so dead today." Taking a dagger out of her chest pocket, Mu Yaoyao tossed it to Feng Wu. "Are you going to do it, or do I have to do it myself?" Feng Wu sighed. "Mu Yaoyao, it really doesn't have to end like this." Mu Yaoyao snorted. "It does, and it will. I'll never forgive you." "What are you gonna do?" Feng Wu sighed. "Are you sure you want to carry out this bet?" "Of course I do. There's no turning back." Mu Yaoyao sneered at her. Feng Wu shook her head and took off her hat, revealing the 7 stars on her headband. Mu Yaoyao was dumbfounded. Her eyes widened and she stared at Feng Wu, utterly speechless. She was so shocked that her eyes popped out. "No. That's impossible. How can it be?" "No." Mu Yaoyao screamed. 7 stars were lit up on Feng Wu's headband. All 7 of them. What did that mean? It meant that Feng Wu had gotten full marks in the physical tryout. "Aren't you a cripple? How could you get all 7 stars? You cheated. You must have. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.